Sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can y'all hear me okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yep.
Hi, Johnny.
And
hi, Judy.
We just started live streaming, just so everybody knows. And I'm excited to share this afterwards and make sure we're all documenting the work being done to make this event happen.
Cool. That's a good idea. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi. How's everybody?
Good.
Hi, Cynthia.
Hey.
So I guess we could start just by hearing what Judy had to say about the art show. I want to keep it loose and just welcome anybody to share ideas, and we can discuss. If this is useful, we can do this on a regular basis, and I think it would help build up to the event.
All right. So these are some loose thoughts. I really haven't, thought about it in a super granular way, but I feel that we see that there's so much interest from all kinds of people coming into this, which is amazing. And I always thought that the Rare Art Festival obviously should have an art show component where the art can be exhibited and ready to be purchased. And I think that I don't know exactly, and this is something that we can discuss, how to curate this show, but what I feel is that that it should be rare art, and by rare art it means that it should be tokenized. So art that is rare by virtue of it being able to be transacted with a token, whether it's ETH or Pepe, whatever, whatever it is. But I think that should be like the kind of the first criteria. So not art that is about rare art, not art that is about Bitcoin, but art that is actually using the blockchain to exist and to be transacted. And then I was thinking that, I know that there are platforms like Super Rare and like Rare Art Labs, like us, that have already like communities of artists. And then I would think that the best way to go about it perhaps is for each platform to do their own curation of whatever they want to present. And then for individual artists or people who are not necessarily affiliated with a platform or with a project, like then it would be interesting to hear what ideas people have on how to curate this, because I really feel that this art show should be kind of like a survey of what is happening in the art space, in the rare art space, but it should also have some quality, and that's where like the curation part comes in, and maybe that's kind of like the tricky part. But those were my very, very general thoughts, and I was hoping to hear other people.
So my thought is that we can have
the curation. Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just what is the nature of the proposing votes, or the people who are the designers?
You're breaking up, Cynthia. It's really hard to hear what you're saying.
Oh, sorry, Mike. Do you want to have voting, or are you interested in having like a panel of people who ultimately decide?
Well, I don't know. I think that's something that we should talk about. I think obviously panels of people are maybe the easiest, but I think in some way it goes against the grain of what this community is about in some way, right? And on the other hand, voting could be great, but at the same time, does that ensure like super quality? We don't know. So that's why I think that, maybe people should submit their work, and then I'm happy to hear instances. I mean, we could get a really great panel of experts and stuff, but there's a part of me that feels that is kind of going more the more mainstream way. I don't know what other people think.
Yeah, can we use blockchain for some kind of voting mechanism? Aren't there companies or some of these platforms are trying to do that. Like I think Rare Art Labs, and isn't that part of their thing? Like they're trying to make it so it's like a voting in with the blockchain or something. Isn't somebody doing that?
It's possible. I think that there was, like, when I was at the blockchain conference in Cleveland, I don't know what platform it is. I can find out. They're using blockchain to vote for the Cleveland Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't know exactly how that works or who they're using to do that, but part of they're opening the vote to the public, and the public voting is apparently being done or is going to be done with blockchain. So that could be cool. But it would probably need to be, in that sense, like a platform like that it is not necessarily represented like Rare Art Labs, but
yeah, I know. I know in the Bitcoins with Counterparty, I know everybody doesn't use Counterparty, but we sign messages to vote using using Bitcoin's blockchain, and it costs 3 or 5 cents if as long as Bitcoin's not spammed out. But I think it's probably a similar thing with Ethereum.
Yeah, it's like that's technically possible. You can just sign messages like using MetaMask, for example, like for free without paying gas. It would just be a matter of like somebody has to take the lead on that and like build a microsite for it or something. So yeah. Some complexity there. But yeah, I just wanted to just say a couple thoughts. I love the concept of a gallery. I'd be super excited to participate. We did a few events last year where we had super rare art up on the wall, like in digital screens, and I think it's really exciting. Like people really get it. It's really, I think it's a really good opportunity to bring a lot of richness to the event. And then, like a cool thing is that a lot of the art can be for sale. So we did pretty successfully in Prague. Some of you guys saw, I'm sure, some of your like Skrilla's art, for example, was featured at least. We had QR codes that people could like open the art, like on their phone, and if they have a mobile Ethereum wallet, they place a bid or buy it on the spot. So something like that, I think would be really cool. One kind of logistical thing, like we tried to make it so that each piece of art, like at least like on the day of the event, is actually something that's still for sale by the artist. So the artist is like getting the revenue from the event. So that makes curation like a little kind of like down to the last minute. So it might be, like one reason to be in favor for like having like a guest curator or like a committee or something that could have it be like a later decision. But anyway, that's my 2 cents about it.
Yeah, I think those are good thoughts. I think we have to be practical as well, and so depending on also how many submissions we get, I think we can put together a group of people that have the good credentials. We know people like Jason, and we could even nominate people that can make a selection or like a short list or something like that. No,
I nominate Cynthia.
Well, the one I was thinking about, I participate in this Artmatic in DC. They have the look art exhibit.
You may wanna turn off your.
Oh, sorry.
Turn off your
room.
The video, and maybe we will be able to hear you a little bit better.
How is this? Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in a different room. So I participated in this thing called Artmatic that's been in DC area celebrating like 20 years. And what they do, it's all public art, and the people who participate, they all pay $100 and they get space and blah, blah. So there's a couple of different things that happen. They have a public vote on different categories. And then they have what they consider to be, independent experts select their favorites. So it kind of depends on what the goal is. If the goal is to have as many people as possible participate, and then have a cutoff point on there's only going to be 100 that we're going to accept. And then folks can vote on categories of things. And then you have favorites of people that you consider experts, highlight those things that they find exceptional. That way you can get the public participation, and then you could have those who are very familiar make some determinations on why this is cool. Why this particular art merits some additional attention or something like that, so that you get both.
That's an interesting compromise. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking there's also going to be limitations of space, right? Because there, we would need to have digital. We would need to have screens, as John mentioned, and then see how much room we have. I mean, apparently there's more than one floor, and maybe the art show could be all over the venue. I don't know. We would need to see that. But that could be also, the good thing is that because things tend to be digital, even though, there may be some things that are physically shown or in the screens, but then there could be also a list of all the submissions that people can also reach on their own, that may, if they don't end up getting, actually exhibited in the premises. That could be another, a way to do it. But I like that idea of having a mix of popular vote and experts, as long as the vote is not that kind of thing where it's vote for me. I mean, it's that kind of thing. But sounds. That could be doable too. What
I think physical art should be included too. Personally, I don't know if everybody's with that, but I like the digital art, and I like the physical art. I like a lot of especially instant stuff that combines physical with the digital.
As long as it is rare.
Well, I don't know. For instance, I'm not trying to show myself, but if I put that painting up there or something, then I would, or DJ Pepe, I would want to, that's Bitcoin art, but it's not, DJ Pepe is tokenized, but the other piece is not tokenized. Not saying I want to sell that piece or anything, but I like to buy, me personally in my house, I'm not at my house, by the way, I have Bitcoin art in the house, physical, and I like it. I think a lot of people do.
I know they do. I really think that this is a strong opinion. I think it should be rare art that is tokenized, because that's exactly what the festival is about. And although there may be some fantastic art that has to do with Bitcoin or with crypto, I think the entire point is that we show that there is a market and that this is something that is doable and can be done, and it's not your classic stuff. So
what about stuff for Blockchain Art Collective or something? I haven't experimented with it, but don't they tokenize physical?
I think that if they can bridge that gap and they can tokenize that beautiful order that you have over there, that could be great.
That's a hedgehog.
Hedgehog. Sorry. But I mean, I don't know what other people think, because I think also that's why it can't be just, I mean, it's cool to be inclusive, but I really think that we should keep the focus on this stuff, so that it's just pristinely clear that this is art that can be bought with crypto.
Well, one more thing to add to that. Johnny Dollar, who's here, he has a book. It's an art print book of all his art prints from the last 5 years. Do I have that here? Oh, I can show it to you in a second. And it's tokenized, and he sends out art pieces to people that own it.
That's great.
And then I got my Johnny Dollar bill with public and private key on the back.
That's great. Stuff like that is great.
Stuff like that is cool.
Yeah. For instance, the CryptoPunks, which I think should be like what they did for the Zurich art show, where I was there. They did these beautiful prints of the CryptoPunks that come with an envelope that has the key, and then you don't get the print, I think, unless you actually get the actual punk. So, I mean, I think that there certainly should be physical. It doesn't matter whether it's physical or digital, as long as that there is a crypto component to it.
Okay.
So in other words, you're saying it has to be tokenized.
Yes.
It has to be. Okay.
Yes.
That's fair.
I'd like to.
1 second. Yeah. I mean, I think token is sorry, Johnny.
Okay.
Yeah, tokenized. I would push back on that terminology just because I feel like you know, perhaps we can have smart contract art, or
however you want to call it. Yeah, however you want to call it, as long as it's something that you buy with a cryptocurrency and you get on a wallet, because I think, I mean, this is the Rare Art Festival, and that's what should be.
I would just add with the physical art, and I agree with you about it should be smart contract. Let's just use tokenized for now, because I don't know a better word. For practicality's sake, having a bunch of screens and we don't know the lighting, often if it's bright, you might not be able to see things. Just for an aesthetic point of view, if you're in an art festival and you might not, you know, it'll be prettier to have physical art on the wall. If that art's, you know, has QR codes, it has smart contract / tokens assigned to it. Yes, absolutely agree with you. But just for practicality's sake, you know, we'll be fighting for plugs, you know, a lot of times.
We've done this. Yeah, we have done this before. The thing is that we don't have any physical art, and we're probably not going to have any physical art, but we have this amazing art that can be shown digitally, and it has been shown digitally. It was shown at the Rare Art Festival, and it has been shown in many other instances, and I'm sure the Super Rare guys, as Jonathan said, has done it before. So it can be a combination, but you know, it's gonna have to be a combination, because there are people like us that are not intending probably to create any kind of physical art.
So no art at this place can be bought with US dollar. You have to buy it with crypto also.
I would think that, I mean, no, I mean,
I agree. I agree with that, but I know that any other one I've been to, nobody pays with their crypto.
No, I don't think that I don't think that you know, like the people from Snark Art are letting you pay for the Atom with a credit card. That is fine. I paid for my Atom with a credit card. It's not that. It's that it is using the blockchain. Is that
like you're getting a token after you pay for it?
Yeah. Whatever. I mean, however people pay for it, but it is rare digital crypto art.
I think that's probably the best thing, because otherwise it's just like any other art fair. And you know, if you want to make a distinction and bring this to kind of the next level with this, and they're, you know, not necessarily that you prohibit people from using dollars in its entirety, but I think it's important to at least, you know, push people in that direction if that's truly the goal. I mean, this is really a philosophical, in some respects, question.
We could offer a discount of 20% if you use crypto or something like that.
Well, yeah. What about just onboarding? Sorry. What about just trying to get people on board? You know, at the event, right? So somebody gets it, like sees this crypto art and is like, oh, this is a cool piece. I don't have any Ethereum. Like maybe I'll buy it, or I don't have any Bitcoin. Why not? What if we incorporate some element of, like, you know, sort of a gift shop element where, you know, there's a onboarding experience where we can create, you know, for people. I don't know. That's just an idea, because I mean, I think the whole idea, like, you know, is to expand. If you get people, you got to hook them. You get people coming to this event. You want them to potentially engage with the community beyond it. I don't know if you guys are hearing me.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay.
No, yes, absolutely. I mean, to me, it's not even so important to be able to sell, actually, than as an art show to show a survey of the most interesting or the most amazing or the most unique art that has been done. And from last year, where we were at the first Rare Art Festival, where really the only purely art projects were, there were the Rare Pepes, there was Dada, and there were the CryptoPunks. There are not necessarily games like CryptoKitties, but actual art projects. Now there's so much more going on in the space, and there were like the Rare Art Labs guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, what if? I mean, I like the idea. What if? I think this is outside of the art show, because I think that what you're saying, Judy, makes a lot of sense to have kind of more of a sort of esoteric, pure art show of digital / crypto art. But if we had, like, say, I mean, and of course we don't need to expand the scope even further, but the idea of, like, maybe a crypto goods shop where you could buy things like I don't know, like, variety crypto art, you could get the Bitcoin thing or something, with US dollars, or you could get, you could buy a variety of crypto goods, and that space is meant for onboarding and for people who already, have access to it, but, like, so that you could be like, I'd be like, oh, this thing's really cool, like, is there a way I can, get involved right now? And I think that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a cool idea.
Yeah, setting up a workshop for artists is a good idea that don't know how to tokenize stuff too.
In my mind, it's I don't know, like, one important job is just like around telling the story. So, like, if like DJ Pepe Cutout is there, and people are there to tell people what it is, if, like, we're there to tell people what it is, like, it's obviously token related, like, he is a token. That physical cutout isn't necessarily a token, but, like, there's a lot of facets to the story. So, I mean,
Sure.
I'm totally on board with having everything be, like, either tokenized or token related. But I think the important thing is, like, just to be able to relate it to tokenized art, and even if, like, I love having, like, physical pieces there too.
Sure,
as long as they, like, tie into the story.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to show a little bit of that evolution, perhaps. That's why I'm thinking it's more like a survey in a way of where it was maybe a year ago, where it is now. And there's, like, it's very interesting because there's people like fine artists like the Snark Art Project, or even Kevin Abosh and other people. There's really amazing projects like what Primavera is doing with Plantoid. And then there's, like, a whole range of art up to, like, for instance, what we do, where we have, like, a great variety of artists, but you don't necessarily consider that a fine art. So I think that this is a survey that should show, like, the breadth of that. Sorry.
So in terms of the process, I think what we should do is be inclusive at the start and narrow it down. And I was imagining 3 tiers, so you could actually create tokens and sell them at the event or afterward, but also including as much as possible on the walls, and screens being the limiting factor, of course. So we should have as much art as possible, but I think it's good to focus on the digital stuff because it is a logistical challenge. And then finally we'll have the auction. So I think that's where the committee comes into play in deciding, like, which pieces go up for auction at the end, or, like, before the after party or whatever.
Are you having Lewis do the auction again?
Yep. And I've already talked to some folks about auctioning their pieces. I'm not, playing favorites or anything. I'm definitely gonna keep
we could have a submission for people. It could be I think the auction and the art show are different slightly. For instance, Bea does not believe in auctions, and so I don't know if we're going to have something up for auction. Dada, I have to talk to her. She does not believe in auctions in the way that that we know do them now. We believe we're going to be experimenting with a second price auction, which is a different kind of auction where the second bid is the one that is the winning bid, and that takes out a little bit of the speculation and the rampant competition. That is fun. But so yeah, so there could be submissions for the auction, and again, like maybe some a committee could decide which of the pieces get to the auction, and at the same time submissions for the art show, plus stuff that we could nominate ourselves, because there's stuff that, you know, it's kind of already obvious that it should be included, like I would say the CryptoPunks or like other projects that are out there. No?
Yeah, I think the more art we can include is always better. But at a certain point, you got to reject some submissions for various reasons.
Of course.
But that process, to clarify, just like accepting all submissions, choosing which ones are not acceptable, and displaying everything else somewhere, if possible. You know, screens being the problem, I guess.
Yeah. What I could do is I could propose, I mean, like a number of people who may want to be on the selection committee. And we can talk about whether we agree with this list or not. And then we can also like put out like a submission form for people to, with certain simple criteria of how this art, whether physical, digital, but should be smart contracted or however you want to call it. And then just some guidelines and deadlines on, you know, how this process is going to be, and when people are going to have a response, and by when do we need the art, and all the logistical details. No?
Another just logistical note. So about the screens, like what we've done in the past is used iPads, because they have a pretty good like 10-hour battery life, and we have a number of them. So if there was, I mean, depending on how it works with the space and with the community and everything, but I'm kind of envisioning like if we had like X number of super rare artists represented with each piece, we could have like maybe 4 or 5 screens, and I'd be happy to like you know, I could provide our own screens, and like there's also like a security thing, so like you know, me or one of our friends could like hang out by it and make sure people aren't like ripping our screens off the wall. But there are some logistics like that to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one way I like, that's like a simple way that I could help make at least like our part work. And then so that logistically, and then like obviously however the actual art is being curated, happy to participate in that, to like choose which pieces. But the artists are always like really excited about having, you know, their art shown like at a New York event, and yeah, it's usually like a really positive thing. So
Sure.
James, with your spreadsheet, is there a general category of volunteer who's part of setup and is that sort of thing? Because that would be a good volunteer opportunity for folks who just want to monitor the art or watch the.
Yeah, definitely need volunteers. I think you know, it won't be too many, because the amount of people hopefully will deter theft and you know, people ripping stuff off the walls. But yeah, it's going to be necessary.
Yeah, I was thinking like in our case, we've used these like just these screens where you can plug in like a pen drive and play a video or a streaming video of data art, because our case, as you know, is very unique how we present the art in the platform. And for the logistics, there would be for us to find someone who could, for instance, even someone like Mural, who could donate some screens, as they did before for the Rare Art Festival one, or other of such companies that can donate some screens, or look into maybe sponsors that can donate some screens, like Samsung or something like that. So we could also have a combination, perhaps, of that kind of display if people need it.
Yeah, we'll definitely need a concentrated effort to get as many screens there as possible.
Yeah.
What
Hey,
about
is this going to be a charged event?
No,
Paid event? All free?
that's not in the plans.
I would.
Yeah,
I think
we're
free is
keeping it
cool.
free. I think
Maybe a
one
donation thing or something, or so maybe if the artists want to, some of the artists that weren't selected, maybe they could, you know, have a $50 fee to show in some room too, or something like that. That way, it could at least help get. I don't know. We need things. We need iPad screens. We need some food and probably booze and shit like that.
I really object to charging people to show. I think that, I don't know if you have spoken to Will King from Consensus. I know that he participated, that he came into the chat. We could certainly reach out to him and see if there's anything that they can help with in terms of sponsorship. I'd much rather, in terms of the food and stuff like that, then we can also talk about other ways in which we can make this happen.
Right.
But I am super against having people paying to play.
That's cool. I don't like it either, honestly, but I know some places do it, and
Yeah.
I think we need to get some kind of
Yeah.
budget for some things, obviously. So sponsorship or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody's dad or something.
We discussed a plan for getting sponsors involved in the last call that would involve bags that people could use to carry around, little trinkets that represent tokens or are tokens themselves. And that's kind of like your takeaway from the event is like you fill up your bag with tokens you create and buy and trade for and whatnot. So one idea is to separate the floors and, you know, invite newbies to like learn on the first floor and have to prove they, you know, have a mobile wallet or something like that to get upstairs.
I like that.
But
it's like a blockchain.
Yeah, I'm with Judy on definitely not charging for the opportunity to show event or show art. But yeah, like my goal is to include any submissions that are acceptable in some way, whether it's at the event or on the website or however we can make it work. I'd like to include, you know, the full gamut, but like she said, we'll have a survey of what's most interesting and exciting, unique, and you know, representative of the space.
Hey James, real quick, dude, I gotta show you something.
Okay. Nice.
That's what you got behind you, right?
Yeah.
Bro.
So James, I have a question. Have you or Fanny have you guys talked about press or like anything like that, like how to reach out to get some coverage?
Yep.
Okay.
That's on the to-do list or the, you know, objectives we've got on the Google Doc. I think sooner the better with that. Now that we have a date and venue and community growing, I think it's a matter of time before we start building even more momentum. And yeah, like getting mentioned in the New York Times last year was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get something like that.
It was because of a complete like crazy thing that happened, as you know, like the guys from, I don't remember what their name was, but that they claimed that Richard Prince was coming to the festival, and then there was this guy from the New York Times calling and asking if that was really the case or whatever. But we, having been covered before, we certainly should expect to should put it out there to be covered again, since it's going to be even more complete and just a really interesting evolution of the last one. So let's talk about it as we move forward to see how we can help also with that. Yes.
Hey guys, I've got to head out to another meeting, but great syncing with everyone, and we'll be in the Telegram for follow-ups.
Thank you, John.
See ya.
And I had a question. When could we go to the venue and just check it out, so we can look at like placement and stuff? James. Oh, I think he's. I see Johnny moving, but I see James is kind of frozen in time. Can you hear me? You are.
I can hear you, Judy.
Okay, yeah. I think he's coming back up, I guess.
Rob, what do you think, man?
You're on mute. We can't hear you. Something sounds like techno. Right? We can't hear you,
Rob.
Rob.
We can't hear you.
I think maybe to turn off your screen. If we turn off our screen, sometimes it's easier to hear people. Let me see if there's anything we can do. Oh, there's
Has anybody talked to Furtherfield, like Ruth or anybody, about getting them involved?
No, but certainly we can.
They should be involved. They can
Yeah.
And I'm talking to some music people in our crypto music stuff about doing some stuff. I know James had some people in mind too. So.
Rob, you want to try to say again what you were saying? We couldn't hear you before. We still can't hear you.
Press, PR. Yeah, it's definitely on the docket. And marketing promotions and that is kind of next phase, I think, after we figure out like what we can share in terms of content. And like the first thing to reach that goal is to establish the format or the structure of the overall event. Just figuring out like how many workshops versus how many presentations and topics for discussion groups, the spontaneous gatherings of participants. So yeah, I think that's kind of my goal for this call, is to like start that discussion.
Yeah.
Would love to talk about anything that's
cool.
On his radar.
Sounds good. So, just to finish with the art stuff, I will propose a list. If anyone in this call wants to also be part of the selection committee, just let me know, and we can take it from there. And I start drafting some sort of submission guidelines. Sounds good.
Is it in James' Google document already?
The art committee is on
Judy's request to have people on.
Yeah, I know that there were some people there, but there may be. I'm thinking that maybe Jason would be a good addition to that, or
yeah.
Okay. So it is in the list. I just wanted to see. Know if it's
on there.
Okay.
And my intention was for that to be like completely open. You can add your name to whatever committee. The bold names don't really mean anything. It's just kind of like indicating your extra commitment.
Extra.
Yeah.
Your bold commitment.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think it's good to have leadership in those committees. So I really appreciate what you're doing, Judy, and look forward to this coming together, because it's going to be a huge part of the event.
Thank you. Yeah, no, happy to do it. Having said that, we would love to present something, since if we're going to move on to presentations and stuff, we would love to have a presentation, because what we are doing now is really beyond just issuing a marketplace for selling art. We're really going to build an economy for artists, and we would like to present what we're thinking of doing. So I will put it in the document, but just so everyone knows, if that's okay.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, so just to start off that discussion, and feel free to go back to anything about the art show if we didn't cover it yet. But I was thinking to facilitate learning, we should minimize the number of presentations like that and do more workshops and really minimize the panel discussions unless we've got like a topic everyone is interested in. But definitely want to have
versus Bitcoin.
We need the major platforms to give presentations like that. And say what?
Ethereum versus Bitcoin.
Could be interesting. And
my favorite topic.
EOS folks as well that might have opinions to share.
Yeah, you said EOS?
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely get into stuff like that.
I think that's important, to be honest. I do a lot of helping artists and education stuff, and that's the problem. They're like, oh yeah, I got blockchain. One guy was like, yeah, I got one coin, I'm good. He said that to me. I explained to him that how bad it was. Me and Cynthia's first AOTB podcast, the engineer had one coin and was explaining he's good, he's covered in crypto, like, and that's a basic thing. Like, so like, I think the major platforms like Bitcoin, Ethereum, EOS, and stuff should be kind of covered. Maybe that's the first level of things, like you were saying, James, where you got to get upstairs. Maybe you got to pass a quiz if you know like 10 questions about blockchain or something.
Maybe you have to.
That is definitely something that should be part of the education component. Is as we go through this process, it doesn't necessarily have to be a separate presentation as much as an introduction that hopefully people will want to know.
Yeah.
I mean, this is. I think that's definitely should be a pathway.
I will be honest, though. I think we'll have some limitations in sponsorship if we go that direction.
What direction?
If we include all platforms.
Well, no, I think that I really like the idea of limiting presentations and really making it really just not doing panels and really doing workshops. I think that's a really cool idea because panels, in the end, I think people are already exhausted, and how many of them are truly interesting. But we could talk about some presentations, and then the vast majority could be workshops. No?
Well, the idea for the papers is supposed to help with this too. Is that if you really have some deep, some real expertise and some thinking behind these comparisons, because I think comparison research is something that's critically needed, and to the extent that it might be too in the weeds for the majority of the, of the participants, but it would be a useful paper. People can just take it home and look at it at their leisure and get some understanding. So I think everything can be covered. It just might not be in a different way.
So what I meant by the major platforms are, the platforms users tokenize art with, not the networks like Bitcoin or Ethereum. But yeah, I definitely think all blockchains should be invited to represent what they're doing for the rare art and just crypto.
Yeah, like even Creative Chain. Creative Chain does a lot of stuff, and they seem to get no love on anything. I mean, I know they're in Spain and stuff, but they do a lot of. They have a big community overseas, at least. Right, Cynthia.
Well, but that's going to be a really interesting thing because, I every day I get new heartburn. But one of the things that is going to be interesting to me is how do we? There's a case that was just decided on secondary art market in France, and United States doesn't have the issues are not the same in the United States. So we're all about trying to get this done globally, but there are laws in the way. And something like Creative Chain is a wonderful example of that, but I don't know if Americans as an example would even be able to participate in that. But that's
a good point to talk about as well. If anybody cares, I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, so many. I mean, this is another thing when I was thinking about our call for papers. So I looked it up just to make sure I was doing everything, as well as I could. And I'm going to have to get permission from everybody who is submitting a paper to send them an email to be in compliance with the this GDPR, the EU laws regarding the collection of data. So personally identifiable information. So while the United States doesn't have it, I'm going to be dealing with folks who live overseas who are under those obligations. So we have to be aware, at least in my mind, being aware of what's going on around the world. It has to be part of this discussion. We can't, I don't know how, it can be addressed in this particular event, but I think we really, as a community, need to pay attention to, it's not US driven.
There's a big Japan crypto art scene. Maybe we can get somebody from the Japan crypto art scene to come over and contrast the US crypto art scene and regulations and stuff.
I have a question, Cynthia. So I think the idea of the papers is great, but how are you thinking of presenting them in situ, or what are the thoughts behind?
I'm hoping that the ones that are chosen, that everybody gets to do a 10-minute presentation. That's my idea. So people can wander in and out over the course of the day and hear somebody's presentation of their findings. And it may, not everybody's going to be interested in the research, but I think for those who did the work, they deserve to have an opportunity to present their findings.
Sure.
At least that's my thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of philosophy in this besides, just displaying art. There's, I can't really put it into words, but what Cynthia's saying about the paper is like, there's a lot of deep stuff in this, can you tokenize physical art? How do you do it? I don't want to bore you and get out of my realm of vocabulary, but you guys kind of know what I'm saying.
I think that it should be kind of, one of the things that I think in these kinds of festival work is a bit of variety in a way. So presentations that are like, that are interesting, that visually interesting, or that have like a really interesting content component are important, because for the press, for instance, may not start reading a bunch of academic papers, but if there are people out there who have something interesting to present that is media interesting, then we should think about things like that as well. So there's a combination of workshops, some presentations, and this thing that you're talking about people coming in and out of these more academic presentations, I think sounds great.
I'd just like to add with the papers that, it's not just, this will bring in some of the devs, some of the higher level devs, mm-hmm. That can, help propel this forward with tech. A lot of I have some developer friends and I talk to them about it, and they're getting interested, and they're interested more in like technical levels. And I have a couple that are interested in writing papers. So I think that's a key aspect, not just, press is important and the artists are important, but, the tech, as James knows, the devs are, at the heart of this along.
Yeah. But if no one knows about it, then how do we onboard people? I think it's super important one of the things that is important is for us to stop being a niche as much as possible and to start becoming as mainstream as possible. And so, that's why, it could be a very nice balance between the very tech-oriented and the very, more deep diving into things, and making it a festival that is also approachable for all the people, because we're talking amongst ourselves and we know this. Most people don't. I went to MIT and I spoke at a conference at MIT, and people at MIT almost didn't know what blockchain was. I mean, it's a reality. So we need to, it's that kind of thing in which it needs to be fun, it needs to be vibrant, it needs to be a combination of of those things, of the super technical and the super dev oriented, the making, as I know James really wants to do it about people getting their hands dirty and doing stuff, which I think is great, and at the same time bringing it out to people so that they understand it and they are not intimidated by it and they can enjoy it.
Yeah, I think the call for papers is a great parallel to the art show, which is more like aesthetic and exciting maybe, but we got to have that rigorous perspective as well.
Mm-hmm.
And my thinking is not only would we have presentations at the event, but I think Cynthia mentioned the booklet of all the papers, almost like a journal, is a great thing to take away from
Yeah, that's a really cool idea.
And just using Dada as an example, what I'm thinking for the structure of the first floor or the like schedule is we have an emphasis on presenting new stuff, not like your typical presentation, like what you mentioned, the new creative economy, like talking about universal income and empowering artists to get what they deserve. That's a great presentation topic. And from that, we could set aside time. So it's like maybe 30, 45, I don't know how long you need for that presentation. But after that, you could have an allotted time for a workshop. So you give the presentation and then lead people directly to a computer where they can start drawing and learn how to use the platform.
Yeah, that is great. Actually, that's more or less of what we were thinking. It could be probably 30. That doesn't need to be more than that. 30 is plenty. And then we have done this before where we have people live drawing on the scene, and we have artists from all over the world actually standing by to draw with people. And even by May, I think we're going to have our new redesign ready, and we're also going to have more collections. So the workshop could also be about actually, onboarding people to buy art. I don't know yet, but it could be a combination. So that would be awesome. Mm-hmm.
And so just getting more detailed, I'm thinking about setting hour-long chunks, breaking the day into those chunks. Mm-hmm. So the first 30 minutes of each would be a presentation or a panel maybe, but focusing on getting the major platforms up in front of everyone to present the new stuff. And then the second half of that hour would be split. So you could have the noobs learning about how to use Dada, but anyone who already knows can form a spontaneous discussion group around a more in-depth topic.
Sure.
So that way you can like have a balance on the first floor, and there's a lot of space, so we can do various discussion groups if we need more time. I think that we've got enough room to facilitate a lot of discussions. So that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. And for the call for papers, like the presentations, I'd like to set aside like a specific time for that. And like you said, Cynthia, having 10-minute presentations from each of the selected authors would be awesome. And that can be like the paper, hour. So we have, I don't know how many presenters will come out of it, but we can set aside 1 or 2 hours for that, and that be like a dedicated part of the event. So that way it's like broken up. So we have part of the day is a series of presentations and workshops led by the major platforms in parallel with the spontaneous discussion groups, and then having like maybe a break or something in between that and the papers being presented, and then going into the auction. And my vision is to have like a big panel discussion, or even more of like a debate kind of thing, just to hype it up and get people interested in like the first floor. If they're too busy upstairs creating, or it could go either way. But bringing people together for that, leading into the auction and the musical performances and all the festivities. Yeah, that's just my thinking right now, but I'm still working on the whole structure.
I was just thinking of your spontaneous discussions. There could be like a jar at the entrance, and people can put in slips of paper about things that they want to have discussed, and then people who agree to participate in the discussion draw from the jar, and everybody has to talk about whatever that subject is. Because you wouldn't know in advance what you'd have to talk about. It would be based on
That's a cool idea.
Folks coming in, and they determine. And you usually get when I've seen that done before at other circumstances, you get really interesting insight from those who happen to be in the room at the time.
Oh, I think that's a great idea.
Which it's very, very different, because if you are prepared to answer particular questions, is very different than when somebody throws you a loop and you have to do something.
It's a great idea. Also, people could volunteer to be moderators, like among all of us. I'm sure between us, there's a lot of people who could moderate very casually these discussions and just keep them, relatively organized. But I think that's a really cool idea, because it's a nice way of breaking the ice. People are sometimes very intimidated about asking questions, and they have really good questions and they don't ask them. And so I think that's a really cool way to approach it.
Yeah.
My thinking was whoever proposed the topic, if they want, can be.
They can more. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we can also have volunteers moderate.
Yeah, they could put their name if they want to be asked to moderate that kind of thing, or some people want to be anonymous. But yeah, there's lots of possibilities. I don't know. That's the other thing, is that the time. How many hours are actually allotted for this?
It's 1 day, right?
Yeah, but is it like 9 to 6 or 9 to 9?
It's really up to the group to decide that. Bushwick Generators extremely generous and flexible, and if we fill up 1 day, there's potential for adding a second day if necessary, but not even close to that yet. Obviously, we need to focus on 1 day, and I think 9 to 6 sounds good. I mean, people, I'd like to, maybe keep the morning stuff introductory and anticipate people showing up later than 9, I guess. But I think people are excited about it, so
like
you can do it all day.
Many festivals I've attended, like you do like the registration or whatever at 8 a.m. so that at 9 sharp the first whatever talk or the first stuff starts happening. And so you have to give people, hopefully we'll have sponsors and we could give some coffee and rolls to people or something in the morning, and then people are ready to go at 9 a.m. and then just pack the day completely with stuff until 6 and then party.
Yeah, I'll be there at 8, so we can definitely get started even sooner than that.
You'll be there at 7. Yeah,
coffee will be necessary.
Yeah,
and yeah, like the whole idea is to bring together all types of people. So we want to make sure that you don't leave somebody out of the afternoon if they want to be in the afternoon. If everyone's schedules work out, then it's good, but that's unlikely to happen. But I hope most people will be there for the whole day.
Mm-hmm. And the good news is the L train is not collapsing after all, so that's that's really good news. The apocalypse has been averted. All right, guys, I have to go to another meeting, but it was really great talking to all of you, and I'll be in touch. I'll be on the Telegram.
Thank you so much, Judy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, so I guess I'll just prompt you guys with a question about structure. Are there any other ideas for specific like installations, or just kind of like out of the box ideas for like content programming.
Arm wrestling thing.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I see that as more like an upstairs thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I'm really excited about, the marketplace upstairs. I think you will see a lot of people just hacking away, or at the sound booth we have or something like that. Just all sorts of tokens being created, and that'll be really fun.
Who was the entity at Ethereal last year that had the game in that separate room, Cynthia, where it was like a game theory thing, and they had
they had the chips, the poker chips.
Yeah, the poker chips with the.
Yeah, we interviewed them.
Yeah,
we interviewed.
They had a cool little interactive activity everybody seemed to like.
Yeah, it was definitely involving math. So I didn't think I was going to do well, but I actually won a chip that I haven't busted open yet. But yeah, is a gaming is that going to be a game room with arm wrestling? Should there just be a separate game room where people could do that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm already talking to some folks who are working on crypto games. There's a lot of them based in New York City, and just it made me think of something else.
Have you guys talked to Neon District about this or anything?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're definitely interested in what CryptoKitties and all the different projects have to say. But I've been talking to this guy who's working on a project named Axie Infinity, which is really cool. And it's kind of like CryptoKitties, but they fight, and he used to work. I think he used to do some work for the CryptoKitties team. But yeah, I think the more games, the better. It'll be more fun and showcasing like all the different use cases for NFTs and just tokens in general. But yeah, that's my hope is to like just provide the framework that people need to get what they want out of this event, and provide that in a way that minimizes any sort of logistical overhead for them, and we'll have like a free market, so that if you want to represent your project, there's going to be room to do so. And if we need to strategize around like where things will be set up, that's great. But I think it would be cool to have like some projects that just show up and set up then and there if it's okay with everyone.
Yeah.
They have to let you know in advance, right, that they're going to come.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think if you make a token at the event, you could set up a shop in the corner and say, I'm selling this token now. I don't really see a problem with that. But I agree.
See, but as long as it's like in a designated area.
We'll keep it organized, but yeah. I'm interested in that idea of like a free market with potential for new projects to emerge.
Would it be difficult to make like an OpenSea type market for the event? What?
No, we've got Devin, who's involved in that project. He's in the group now and been talking to him. We've got an opportunity to cross-promote with the NFT.NYC event happening in February. He's organizing that with a few other projects. The one I'm familiar with is Cred with a K. They're doing a lot of promotion right now because it's right around the corner, and we'll have some people in the group who are presenting there. So I'll be there shilling RareAF, and I'm open to all kinds of collaboration with anyone who's in attendance. OpenSea is great. I think we need to make it so that anyone who's building a marketplace feels welcome to, share that and use that at the event. I think there's the idea of like making sure people can participate in the marketplace by having some kind of permission to get upstairs based on whether you have a wallet or like whether you pass a quiz or something like that. But I don't want to show favoritism to any kind of wallet or any marketplace. But
you could give them an option to have any wallet, maybe, and then maybe one of the sponsors, like we could get like an Edge wallet or something that's sponsored, and then that would be like the default download wallet, and they would pay for that. You know what I mean? But otherwise, all of us have wallets, I'm sure. And
I think sponsors would have ability to pay for some preferential treatment. So if OpenSea would like to make it the OpenSea marketplace, that's great, but it's a free market, so they've got to capture that or claim that somehow.
There was a con that I used to go to every year, and we actually had there was I think it was a Camera Obscura or something. It was a steampunk thing, but they actually would. It was kind of a free market situation, and they wanted to make sure everybody was over 21, and there were rules. And the rules were, for example, that you couldn't take any pictures, and what was in that room stayed in that room, kind of thing. Because the kinds of things, of course, that come to my mind is if you don't want anybody to know about your particular project, then you shouldn't show it. If you're concerned that somebody's going to steal your idea, especially if you just create a token on the spot and then you want to sell it, you have to realize that anybody who happened to be there might, take your idea. And then the other thing is that if there's going to be adult content involved with any of these games, that you want to make sure that everybody understands that might be a possibility. And that's my only concern about a marketplace, that anything goes, that you make sure that everybody understands that anything goes.
Well, we can definitely moderate, and the market will decide what's acceptable, and it's a private space, so there's no reason why we can't turn people away if they're trying to represent some awful project. I don't know exactly where we stand on like adult content. I'm thinking it's better to just avoid it, but it's art, so it's kind of a gray area.
What's adult content, really?
I mean, I'm not going to be censoring anything, but
I know.
Oh, no.
If it's nudity, okay, but if it's like cuss words or ideas, it gets weird then.
Well, like in some art exhibits, they just say, adult content, nudity in the room, something like that. But it's usually a warning of some kind, that to the extent that anybody is highly, sensitive to that at least they were given a warning. And especially when people are doing something on the fly, right? So that's my only, just having done some similar things, that was a way of kind of avoiding allegations, that they were not aware and they suddenly find themselves, in an opium den or something, whatever. So.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys, would Art on the Blockchain be willing to do like a live podcast or something like that? We could invite other people to create stuff in the same kind of genre. I think that'd be cool to just have a bunch of live streams and a bunch of audio streams or whatever.
Maybe if it's scheduled, because I don't know, I'd want to see what you all are doing, what everybody's doing. Yeah. I'm interested in this as a observer too. So if it's like a set time, what do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I don't want to do it all day for sure. It would be like a couple hours interviews type thing. I'm down with that, but I personally, I think me and Cynthia definitely wanted to interview people there for our content on the show, and just like we did with Ethereal, we could just chop it up into like a whole program based around
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because that one, I really enjoyed that episode, and yeah, if you could just be walking around interviewing people, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it all day. I'd love for you.
Yeah. But if we just do some kind of not press room, but at least some kind of table, we can bring our microphones and stuff like that. But we just need an area of seclusion, and I'm sure other people will want to do some interview stuff and podcast stuff too. So maybe that could be something we assign times for, or something like that. You could sign up pre or something.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
But yeah, that sounds good.
Quick question. Is there a space for projections, like to do film or anything?
Yeah, I think that could be really interesting, and something I'm personally excited about is all types of media, all formats. So
there's a movie out about the blockchain thing that I got hit up about. They do $300 they charge for screenings. I don't know. They probably want us to do their thing. It's that Singular DTV made it, and the guy from Silk Road and Bill and Ted's Excellent, Alex Winter, produced it, and they're looking to screen things now. I don't know. That could be cool.
Didn't it already come out though?
It's not out though. It's like out, but you gotta screen it. It's not like in theaters.
Oh.
Like they did one in New York and one in LA. But I know that they offered to do one in DC. We'd have to pay $300 and we could keep ticket sales or something like that. But that's not part of this plan, I don't think. But I wouldn't see why they wouldn't want to screen their movie at their target audience.
Yeah, we could definitely have a big screen where different video art is being displayed throughout the day, and I think that's one way to address the limitation of screens, is to have multiple pieces displayed on certain ones, and then others are dedicated to a certain gallery or project. So if you're providing the screens, it's up to you what they're going to be used for, but hopefully we can have some communal screens where anyone's art can just be shuffling through. But yeah, I think if we can't get everything displayed at the event, we have plenty of room online to display what people submit.
Are you going to put a GitHub together? GitHub?
I don't know. Do you mean like a project?
Repository? Just a repository of things related to, or Reddit, maybe just Reddit. Like if all the papers, if people wanted to, make the papers available, I guess just a single place that related to this event that people could, if they were participants, they could submit their stuff to it.
GitHub would be way better than Reddit.
Yeah, so I think what would be cool to have is our own website portal where people can submit anything, like a paper or something to display. So that's on the list. I just added to the document one of the next steps. I think it's kind of immediately after we figure out the structure, then we can start creating that new updated site using Joe's domain, the rare.af domain. And we can have a page for the call for papers. We can have a page for art submissions. Obviously want to promote all the speakers that join the efforts and give sponsors some visibility leading up to the event. Another idea Seth is working on independently, but it's part of the Bushwick Generator community. They're interested in doing a series of artists gatherings or some kind of residency program that could help build momentum. So maybe every month leading up to May, we can have an event at the Bushwick Generator featuring artists who are submitting to be chosen for the Rare Art Festival. And it can happen independently, but I'll be at most of them, and guiding people to the website, and if anyone's not aware, they will be. But I think that's a great way to, build a community. That's like my number one goal, is to just bring people into the fold and see what ideas they can share and how they want to help, and then just give them the platform or tools to make stuff happen. Because that's what's fun. I know that no one wants to deal with all the logistics and reaching out to sponsors and stuff like that. But I'll always appreciate help with that kind of stuff. But I want to synthesize people, ideas, and implementing them collectively. It requires buy-in. So like you'd have to commit to making something happen, or else it's just an idea. So like using the king of the shill example, I think it's a really cool project that could be featured upstairs, or maybe even in a corner of the room downstairs. We have like allotted time for the king of the shill like showdown or whatever. So like if somebody wants to do that, that's a good example of a project that whoever's in charge of it would need to take it upon themselves to make it happen.
Okay, what's a quick brief on what is the King of the Shill again? It's an awesome title.
It's like a soapbox, I guess, physically, that is owned. Like you own the right to get on the soapbox if you're the holder of a certain like permission or asset. So you got a bunch of people fighting to be the king of the shill. The mechanism is the Harburger tax, which is
that's like the game that I was talking about, those guys, the people, the crew in the casino, that ethereal kind of, they were doing the Harbinger tax 2 thing, I think.
Yeah, so you assign a value to that permission to, or like the rights to be on the soapbox. So you value that based on what you pay for it, and then you're like paying a tax on that self-assessed value. But if anyone pays the self-assessed value and purchases that right, then you have to give it up to the next shiller. So that way you're
trying to find that sweet spot between what somebody else would not pay, and what you would pay, right?
Yeah. So
to stay on there longest as possible.
Yeah, like if you're willing to keep paying the tax on whatever value you assigned it, then you have the right to shill as much as you want, or use the soapbox for whatever. I'm not exactly sure how it would be implemented, like in specific details, but
it'd be weird if somebody just standing on a soapbox in the middle of the event, just yelling while everything else is going on.
Yeah, I don't know what it's gonna look like.
Me.
Yeah, it might be online. It might be like some kind of feed where you like get to post or whatever. I'm not sure, but I think it's a really good example of a project that's unique and innovative. So I'm excited about it, and it's also a way to get the Radical Exchange project involved, which is something I'm personally interested in. I think they add a lot to the event. They've got a big focus on art and how it can educate the world and drive cultural progress.
Are those the same guys that are doing the NFTs of anything on the internet, basically?
No, so Radical Exchange was the result of
that's Radical
Markets book that Glenn Weil, Eric Posner, wrote, and this guy Glenn Weil has become friends with Vitalik, and they wrote a paper with Zoe Hitzig called Liberal Radicalism, which I think is cool. I'm also really interested in Glenn's thoughts around channel auctions. Judy mentioned second price auctions earlier, but I think channel auctions are like the next step forward in auction design.
Like reverse auctions?
Channel auctions. So I won't get into that now, I guess, but it's like 2 simultaneous auctions, one where the price is going up, one where the price is going down. So it eliminates the cost of discovering the price, because you can set up algorithms that act based on each of the curves in tandem. So like it's until the price goes above your threshold, you're still in the auction, unless somebody buys it at the price that's going down.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting, I think, and yeah, I just want to get those guys involved because they're active in the technology space in general, and part of their goal is to go mainstream, and like gain user adoption for all sorts of projects. They're not really tied to one platform or anything like that. Even though Glenn's friends with Vitalik, he's pretty agnostic. And yeah, he even says, like, if we can do this without blockchain, I'm all for it. So I think that's a good perspective to add to the community. But
I was thinking of Marble Cards. You know those guys?
Yeah. I like their project. It's kind of like I don't know.
It's like Archetype a little bit. How I think, like, not like the same way, but this thing is like tokenizing anything on the internet, like a meme or a picture or a headline or any of that stuff.
I'm not sure what the copyright issues are with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like the easier.
Yeah, because he approached me at the event and the NFT thing, and he asked me about that. I was like, "Do you have permission?" He's like, "Well, it's on the internet." And I was like, how many years do I have to have this argument with people? Just because it's on the internet does not mean it doesn't have a copyright, and it doesn't mean that the people who drew it don't have an interest. And just because they don't sue you doesn't mean that there's not a problem. So he gave me a different. So he gave me a different card that didn't have any of the memes on it. It was just like, just boring art. So it was pretty hilarious. But I was like, oh.
Cynthia, where do you think the copyright law is going to go in 10 or 20 years with all this stuff happening with digital stuff?
Tell you where I want it to go. I want it to go is that it just turned into a contract basis where each country has its own copyright laws, and then the people who have the copyright can contract around it or with it or use it in a way that benefits them, and that's respected.
But the thing with that is a lot of things like that would cost money to tokenize everything. You're not talking about blockchain specific then, right?
Right. I'm not talking about blockchain specific. Okay. The tokenization element, if you want to do that, that's on you. But from
so in other words, you don't see, just to be clear, you don't see blockchain as being the solution.
No.
Copyright, right?
I'll tell you, and it's kind of like what I said before. Until you can get the entire world, in agreement on its interpretation of copyright, you're not going to have a blockchain solution either.
I feel like a lot of the younger generations are taking more of the Eastern philosophy of copyright. Am I wrong in that? Where they're like shared.
Well,
individual has the right. So what I'm trying to say is, I feel like those people are going to get louder as time goes on, and people like, I'm not really on your side, honestly, on this, but people like I'm kind of in the middle, but people like your thought are, it's harder. And I think there's not as many. And so I'm wondering, that's why I'm asking the question, like, where do you think it's going? Because I just feel like
an Eastern philosophy versus being the government of an Eastern country are two different things. Right. So China is not Eastern government. Because the Chinese have a very different approach to intellectual property. It doesn't mean that they don't recognize it; they just recognize it differently. In fact, the Chinese government tends to have community rights. So if you use traditional medicine, they assert a right to that. Now, the United States doesn't recognize it because it's not an individual that created it. That's the case with Brazil. It's the case with many countries that have a community approach to intellectual property. So the United States tends to ignore all of that because it doesn't recognize an individual as having personal property right. So that conflict will persist, in my opinion, because it's nationalistic.
I feel the more dystopian society gets, which I feel like a lot more younger people are more they're not following religion as much, and they're more agnostic or dystopian minded. I feel like they have a shared collective conscious type of mindset is what I've
until they're trying to earn some money.
Until they're trying
to get some VC money.
I got you, but right. But they're also not buying cars. They're sharing. They're using VR and digital things. Like they are more of like a collective. I don't know. I'm not trying to group them all together. But I just see more thought. Like when I was a kid, I didn't see that. Now I see a lot from almost half the people, at least I talk to. Like they think it's more like a shared collective. And
well, I think that almost every young person I know, that was one of those young people that had a more collective approach until
right.
No, not even that. I mean, I was very big into thinking that there could be a universal approach to intellectual property rights that recognize the human element in the creation of things, and didn't want everything put down to dollars and cents, right? But then when you're trying to raise money, you have to be able to attach a value to the thing that you're doing, and that's where you have a disconnect. So as long as you need other people to give you money to do things, then you have to deal with their rules. So it's not, it's it's not necessarily a belief that there's a better one way is better than the other. It's just the reality of trying to get things done. So, and I have not come across any country that is truly interested 100% behind what the creators are trying to do with what they make.
Sure.
That's just mine. So.
Right.
Yep.
Sounds like a paper topic.
Yeah, sorry, we got a lot of topic. Yeah.
No, that's good.
Well, I wrote about this when I entered law school, and it was really, I approached it from the idea of the Catholic Church versus everybody else. And the Catholic Church doesn't believe in private property generally, that everything belongs to the commons. And so my analysis was who the Catholic countries, the countries that align themselves with the Catholic Church, tend to have a view of common ownership of property versus those of the Church of England that have a private property sense of things. And so there's always a conflict in the international treaties between those who believe that everything is owned by the commons and those who believe strictly in private property. And those battles are still being fought. So
just when you say private property, that means real estate, right?
No, private property, individual ownership of your Coca-Cola bottle, your lamp.
Okay, I thought that was personal property versus private property.
Well, it's personal. Yeah. There's a personal property from a legal perspective. If you're looking at the idea of private property, could also mean, of course, real estate, but it could also mean private property. Do you own what you own? What you think you own? Right. Personal property could be the individual things. Private property could be, does the government actually own the things that are in your house? Well, or do you as an individual own those things?
Do I really own my house, and do I own the land in DC, or do I just own my house?
And you don't.
Yeah,
that was like that was a really rude realization when I go into law school, is that the government at any time can decide, oh yeah, that's really nice, Cynthia, did you think you own this land? But you really don't. There's the superior interest of the country to your land. But there's some really interesting things, and the United States in some respects is a culmination of all these ideas, but some elements win and and other ones recede over time. So
Like,
anyway, that was a great paper.
Nod said, no idea is original.
Nope. Nope, it isn't.
Well, they say the only thing original is an accident.
Yeah, there's no intent. There's no intent. Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm going to take off, though. Good convo.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And just wanted to ask, like, if people need to drop off, totally understand. Would this be useful to do regularly? I think it's good to just like open up a chat and you know, welcome anyone to share thoughts. If everyone drops off, I'm going to keep working, and Ken just sent the spreadsheets, so I've got some stuff to work with. So if you want to take a look at those, that might be how I direct the rest of this call, is to like dive into those documents and see what we can put together or get started. I can share my screen and we can look at those if you want. Does that sound like a good idea? There's only a few of us now, but
that'll be good for me for about 20 minutes. So
sweet.
Go ahead, get started.
Yeah, likewise.
All right. So here's the agenda, and keep in mind I just got these, so I'm not familiar with the layout or anything. Seems pretty straightforward. I've got a summary with their number of attendees. They have ticket prices from $25 to $75. 14 sponsors, different tiers. I think that's a good idea. That reminded me of the bag idea. Is that interesting to people in terms of like giving one designated place where sponsor logos will appear? We can also put them on the website, obviously, and any print materials which are necessary. But I think it'd be good to coordinate around that idea of a bag. And I want to do a design contest for the outside of the bag, or really like a graphic that represents the event. We can have a bunch of them if there's a lot of good submissions, but that's kind of what I want to do for that. Theo made a submission already, and I was working on that MC Escher inspired like Twitter card thing. And so we don't really have like I don't think there'll be like 2 stages, but I do think we can have like a smaller presentation space upstairs. Maybe that's where most of the workshops can happen, or we can do both downstairs, both presentations and workshops. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think downstairs we'll just have one main stage, and that's like the content platform. Workshops, roundtables. Here's their full schedule. We can just adapt. And yeah, Ken mentioned this, and I want to make sure to give credit to the team that organized the NFT Summit, including him and Matt Condon, who's been really helpful. He's given me a lot of advice about building this community and planning events. And the NFT Summit was one of the coolest experiences I've had in the crypto space. It's really nice to have you know, an audience that you know, understands the concepts and is really interested in moving forward, gaining adoption, and you know, solving real problems, as opposed to just making money or tokenizing whatever. So yeah, this is great. It's really nice of him to share all that. And just thinking about the committee, my thought was we can be transparent with committee actions and decisions in the main Telegram channel, but if we need separate channels, that's fine. I'm offering to help any group with anything, but if you want to do it without me, that's fine too. I think that's kind of how we should go forward, is just let things naturally come together. And you know, we do need a little bit of a centralized, you know, progress or like some kind of decision-making process. But I think the Telegram channel itself will eventually be larger, so it's not going to be the best like committee. So we'll need to like establish a different group maybe if that's what people want to do. Yeah, they've got more. I know there's just like another page, metadata, topics. That's cool. Here's the budget. So I also want to, maybe this is a good thing to, uh-oh, I don't have access. Oh, I guess he sent. I'll just request. But for the budget, I think it would be cool to experiment with making it commonly accessible, so that people know the full details. But I don't know if people are comfortable with that. That's kind of a point of contention, maybe. But I'd prefer to have a main sponsor if possible. You know, it'd be awesome to have as many sponsors that we can have. But the like funding will have to be routed through somewhere or something. So if there's a main sponsor, perhaps they could, you know, pay for the food directly, or you know, gather funds from all the sponsors and allocate them accordingly, so that we don't have to establish something like a RareAF entity. But I don't really know. I'm not a lawyer, so that's a outstanding question still. But I'm really interested in experimenting with that idea of like radical transparency, and you know, it could be a way to get buy-in from sponsors if there's line items that just need to be filled. You know, it creates almost like a competition for those opportunities. But we just got to figure out what those opportunities look like. Yeah, any thoughts on that? I don't want to, you know, get ahead of myself.
Well, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. The idea of bringing people into to sponsor one way or another, then the idea is everybody a participant in the event? Because sponsorship would suggest that it's sponsoring a thing of some sort, an entity of some sort. So for people who are volunteering to pay for food would be a different thing than sponsoring an event. You see what I'm saying?
I would say it's good to know. Like, I'd prefer to get sponsors who want to be known for what they're paying for specifically. But if that doesn't work, then we can just pool money and so that like one sponsor is not paying for the food, another's not, but I'm also trying to minimize cost here. So I don't anticipate, astronomical like costs or anything like that. So it should be fairly reasonable, and like to a point of like, if internally, like, or if nobody's willing to step up and pay for the food and drinks, like we can I can figure it out. But that's kind of my.
So is food and drink going to be provided to the attendees?
Yeah, that's kind of the main cost I see. Definitely want to consider the cost of people's time volunteering, and if we need to pay for any like special appearances or like screenings, I see that as maybe a potential cost. The venue has been provided free of charge, and I really don't want to charge for entry, so that would require that requires some funding through sponsorship, and yeah, I think food and drinks are number one, and if everyone just wants to pool funds together, my thinking was just to have a lead sponsor or like some official entity, managing that in terms of like actual payments and just like where all the money goes to begin with. So I don't know if it's fine just to like pool money in a account with the expectation that it's being used for what people are paying for. If that's fine, we can do that. I just assumed we need some kind of like official entity to do that.
Yeah, because then you run the risk. I mean, you run the risk if somebody is wants to help, they can't get a deduction because it's not a nonprofit, right? So they'd want to be able to write it off some way, like it's either a marketing expense or something, like that with regard to if they provided food or something like that, then it would have to be advertising for them, an advertising expense for them. So as long as people realize that their contribution is not to an organization.
Okay.
See what I'm saying? Because there isn't one, and you don't want one.
We can find another nonprofit. Would that be preferable, you think, or do you think sponsors are fine just doing that as an advertising expense?
Well, they'd have to. I think it's all about your transparency with that. Because it's what they'd be doing if they provided food would be doing it out of their own pocket for their own advertising purposes. It wouldn't be so they get a deduction, right? And then the other avenue of that is that they get to have an ad on the bag or whatever it is that they use, but they have to understand that this is not a business. The RareAF is not a business. There is no business affiliated with this activity. So as it's transparent to anyone who wants to help that it's on their own, because I mean, I don't even want to go down the path where my mind is going right now. So, but you want to make sure that everybody understands that the participation is voluntary, and all the risks related to that are on them. Because you obviously, you may or may not, as a person, want to take responsibility for delivery of things, right? So, if
I'm comfortable with that, given that we understand the like sponsorship opportunities beforehand, like before contacting potential sponsors, I can make sure that we can deliver anything that we offer. But I do think it would be more interesting to people if they could write it off, and I'd like to have a nonprofit, kind of lead the charge.
Wasn't the NFT a nonprofit event or not-for-profit entity?
Yeah, so I think they were collaborating with the Ethereum Foundation, which is a nonprofit.
Okay. Yeah, because that's really the only way to get around it. Otherwise, you're an unaffiliated, or it's just basically a social event where like-minded people get together and you guys happen to take over the space, kind of thing. And then it would that would have to be what you'd have to say if you affiliate yourself with a not-for-profit that is willing to, because then money would have to go through them, right? Any money that's collected would have to go through that entity in order for the person to take the deduction.
Okay, well, I think it's up to them, and whoever that may be. So if we can get a nonprofit to help, I think it seems like the right move. But I guess we can do it regardless, with understanding and like full transparency, communicating that it's not a deductible thing, and it's part of their just regular expenses.
Right. It's not a charitable deduction. As long as they know it's not a charitable deduction with whatever it is that they do, and the risk is on them.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. I appreciate your advice. I like I said, I don't really anticipate a huge amount of funding necessary. So it would be kind of weird if we just had one sponsor take care of it all, but maybe that's what we need to look for. I like the idea of pooling funds and getting a small amount from a lot of groups who are interested in what we're doing. I think that's more appealing and more aligned with our mission. But I think you're right. If we can get a nonprofit to manage it, we should.
Yeah, and if you don't, then it's really just and if the thing that the services that you're offering to the people who attend is food and drink, then that's something that's easily manageable by whoever wants to provide those things. But that's your best way. And then everything else is if somebody wants to advertise, basically by having it on the bag or whatever is that they want to do. That's just a pooled expense for everybody who wants to have their name on the bag or on the swag bag or whatever. Then everybody agrees to pay a certain amount, and somebody just will have to manage the bag creation. And that should be a transparent thing too. That's pretty, cost related to getting bags made there's an invoice. That should be pretty easy.
Yeah, I already looked into the costs of printing or manufacturing around 200 bags, and it would be $800 or something like that, depending on we can do more research on price comparisons, but that's what I found.
Yeah.
So and I think that would be good. I want to minimize the amount of printed materials being handed out, but I think that's also a cost. Is printing some agendas or a booklet or some kind of pamphlet thing. The other cost being do we need to? I think Bushwick Generators already handled the alcohol liability issues, but I'm actually not sure about that. I need to double check and figure out any hurdles there. But that's
because you might have to have a server. You might have to have somebody serve. You might not be able to just have a keg kind of thing.
We're gonna keep it classy for sure.
Well, but from the licensing perspective, some require a server to serve the alcohol. Depends on the venue, you know, with the venue what the venue permits. So that's the thing to investigate is, do you need to have a bartender?
Okay. One, like the NFT summit did food trucks, which I think was cool. It's like,
yeah,
it wouldn't take up space, you know, in the building. It'll be hopefully good weather in May, but you know, that's a possibility, and we end up having you know, to run out in the rain to get food. But like that, I think having some variety is good, just so people have options if they have dietary restrictions or whatever. You know, that route is kind of where I'm thinking we'll go. But if we can get like a food sponsor, that would be perfect. You know, but I don't know any tokenized food projects.
Well, I got an idea. Consider maybe the sponsors for their sponsorship. We provide an art contest where their logo is in a piece of art, like incorporated in a piece of art, and that could be a rare token that is gifted to attendees.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Like, I want to feature all the projects on the materials, whether it's a bag or a pamphlet or, you know, on the website. And it would be great to have buy-in leading, like, before the actual design contest, so that we can do that. Another possibility is just like including the logos on the bag, and then having like a separate design. But I would love to see something that incorporates the major, you know, or really any and every project that's involved in this event. So yeah, that would be awesome. If I think maybe we don't have a committee yet, but we should have a like design contest initiative. If you want to get involved with that or lead that, Johnny, that would be awesome.
Sure, be happy to. Be happy to.
Sweet. Yeah, I think you know, we can have rounds so that like we get some ideas first, like concepts, and then further develop them. Maybe after establishing like what is the concept, then we can incorporate the logo somehow. You know, that we can figure that out over time. It doesn't have to be like one person's design. I think it'd be cool if it was like a collective decision-making process and it evolves. Because like that t-shirt design contest that Status did, like I really loved a lot of the submissions, and also thought that like some of the ones that didn't get selected might have been the winner if there was like another round of like collaborative design, because some of the concepts are really cool but not as aesthetically pleasing, or like polished. So
yeah, and it built up some hype a bit as well.
Yeah, I think it was an awesome contest. So I think that's just one way it could be improved, is like phases. Yeah, so I think maybe the bag is like a cost we can't handle, and it's just better to print some flyers or print some booklets. But regardless, we'll need that design. So I think that's a good way to start, just like figuring out what that looks like and like where that will fit. And yeah, if there's some way to make it collaborative and like everyone can, you know, put their logo on a map, like that's like a piece of art. That is something I want to tokenize and give to everyone who attends.
Yes.
Like there's definitely going to be like a RareAF token, like that has a supply of like however many attendees show up. So, and that'll be, I think, free is the goal to just sell that, but there'd be a cost of tokenizing, of course. Another to consider. Is there any other costs that I'm not thinking of right now. It just would be good to throw out there. Maybe not even like necessary costs, but just things that would be worth spending on or worth considering.
So you're expecting all the equipment and the hardware to be available on site?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I wasn't really thinking about that just now, but that's a huge cost. So if we can get a device manufacturer to sponsor, that'd be great. Otherwise, I think it's kind of that process of, if it's your screen, you can do with it what you will. If you're kind enough to donate a screen to like the communal art show, that would be really helpful and a form of sponsorship, I think. So yeah, that's definitely a cost to consider. I don't really see us purchasing new screens, because that would just, jack up the cost significantly. But it's a possibility. Yeah, that's something to think about. Good point.
Because even if you just rent a large screen, or you need a projector or whatever, it's just a cost. And with all these ideas of perhaps doing film, or maybe having a streaming, then you probably need a big screen for that of some sort, whether it's a physical screen or
projector.
Yeah, I mean, I'm planning to bring a screen from my apartment and offer that to anyone who's like, I think that could be used for like a cycle of art that isn't managed through like under the purview of a major platform. Like that kind of like would be the rest of it that doesn't have room to be displayed. But we could use that for whatever.
Somebody might want to demo some hardware.
Yeah, I mean,
that would be awesome if somebody had some hardware they wanted to demo on displaying some of this stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, with it not being an official entity, like we're not trying to make money, but it would be nice to have, it's always good to have a bigger budget. So I'm still trying to figure out like how to go about reaching out to sponsors. I know y'all have to drop, but I just want to ask really quickly if you have time, like any advice about like, is it a good idea? Is it a good idea to just say like, hey, what's an amount that you're comfortable, contributing, and then gather that amount and figure out how much we have first, or should we, like have the full budget ready and then invite people to like claim certain line items, or and maybe just not directly, but like pool money with that like total established. I think that's probably where I'm headed, but with more funds we can make it a better event.
Well, often you might want to consider that what do the sponsors get? From the sponsor's point of view, what are they getting for their money outside of just goodwill? Often like, you might want to consider maybe a sponsor, like people really kind of go for like the gold, silver, platinum packages, sponsorships. I see Rob kind of mentioned something that in the chat level just now. Let me look. But different levels of sponsorship maybe get you different things. I mean, that's one way to go about it, and that may be really helpful to kind of, I don't want to say add competition to sponsorship, but at least say, hey, we'll get you incorporated in a logo contest for this level. We'll have somebody make some art for you at this level. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I think sponsorship levels are good. I think base level would be logo on the website. Maybe next level is like logo on this bag or like in the design itself. Would be really cool to have. I'm
make your own NFTs. Make NFTs or some rare art for that company.
I think we're still you know, collecting ideas for that, and I'm interested in what sponsors want. You know, I want to create some unique sponsorship opportunities that cater to their individual needs. So I'm planning to just like start conversations, you know, based on that, and just get a feel for what they're interested in, while putting together the budget. And maybe have like a core budget and then like a wish list that people can add to, and then yeah, I my only question is like, I don't like the idea of paying for like a booth, or like a, you know, paying to give a presentation, or paying to display your art or your project or something like that. But that's pretty common. I know the people like buy a table. So maybe there's like a special, you know, table that, or set of tables that are the sponsored tables. But yeah, I don't know if that would be as interesting, but I'll get the feedback and share with everyone.
I think the key to me is not having to do anything after the event. That nobody who's organizing this has to deal with the sponsors after the event is over. Hello?
You're kind of like making some crazy alien noises.
Some dance music.
Yeah.
Because then who's gonna actually want to be responsible for things after the event? So to the extent that anything can be done, it's related to the event specifically, and they get to do their thing during the event, or it's on paper products that are distributed, or it's on the website, and all of this is done pre-event, then you're done. Because I would not, in this circumstance, when it's not a business that's responsible for this, I wouldn't want to have anybody have to deal with people who made contributions, have to deal with them later, because then you have a reputation problem that you just don't want to have.
Yeah. So you just mean like getting payment up front rather than collecting afterwards, or do you mean like?
Well, no, like if there's any, you don't want to promise something that to anybody who made a contribution. Let's say they offered to do sandwiches, they pay for sandwiches, or made a opportunity to, or they gave $200 towards, you know, a food truck, is better, because then they give $200 toward the food truck, and then you're done with them. You don't have to deal with that person who gave you the $200 after the event. If you have something that says, well, after the event, we'll provide this and this and this service, you don't want to have to make those kinds of promises after the event has occurred, because then you have to designate somebody to be responsible for it.
So,
and yeah,
let me just clarify, or just ask you, what is an example of like something that like would be a service provided after the event?
That you're going to give them a video of the event, that you are going to give them anything related to the proceedings of the event, anything, those kinds of. There was one thing in particular that you mentioned that's like, you're not going to want to have to think about this when the event's over. One of your suggestions. Do
you remember what that was?
I can't remember what it was, but then the token, one of them might have been the token idea. So you have a token based on something that a contributor has done. Well, that would require somebody to either do that on the spot, and it's created on the spot, or you'd have to rely on that person who offered to create the token to be responsible for making sure that it's delivered to this sponsor after the event's over.
Okay, so like if we're gonna have a RareAF art piece that's tokenized, that would need to be like done before the event, and maybe even just have extras, so it's not like as you walk in we're like tokenizing it.
No, I'm talking about the particular sponsors, the people who have given you money. If they've given you money for some part of the event, I'm not as worried about people who want a token, that ask for a token to be made for their benefit at the event, as much as the people who are giving you money to participate, to pay for the food or pay for equipment or things like that as part of your budget.
Okay. Well, yeah, I would definitely follow that advice to just keep things up front and not have to deal with it after the event. But I do want to provide that kind of like follow up in terms of like general audience, just giving videos or like any sort of content that emerges from the experience. We'll share that with everyone.
Yeah, and that would be available to everyone too. So,
but it wouldn't be promised.
Right, just wouldn't be promised.
James, Cynthia, Rob, my dog is demanding a walk, and I got to get going. But yeah, thanks, guys. I'll talk to y'all later.
Thanks so much. Have a good one. Yeah. Thanks for hanging with us, Rob. I'm sorry your microphone isn't working. Really excited to have you involved too.
All right. So who else is on? Because I'm going to have to step off.
You're good. I think it's just you and me after Rob leaves.
All right.
Thanks for sticking around this long and sharing all your valuable advice.
Well, I don't want anybody. It's hard. I mean, I've done these kinds of things myself, all on on my own, and it's difficult, and it's and very stressful. So to any real life experience advice, I'll do what I can, because I'm still getting blamed for things that I did 5 years ago. So I'm not even, and I'm not even joking. But on the other hand, for the art related things that I did an art walk for 3 years where I had people go to different physical, go from shop to shop and look at art. And people are upset at me that they didn't make any sales. Still mad at me because they didn't make any sales during that event. But a lot of people actually launched their careers after that. So it's good and bad. But to the extent I can help you avoid similar problems that I faced, I will pass that on, because that is
much
hard.
Appreciated.
It is hard.
It's not my first event either. I've planned things not quite at this scale, or at least what I'm imagining will be my biggest event to date. But yeah, really appreciate the collectively organized nature of this. However, I do plan to be more guiding with how I'm facilitating coordination. It seems like the experiment we're doing has more or less shown that centralized authority can be good, and leadership is necessary.
Yes, I definitely agree. I think centralized authority has its place in this world. Because I got a question, from my the department head, and I was required to do one team related class where I had to have teams for the students. And I've always hated working on teams because I didn't like always being the person who did all the work, and then somebody else takes advantage of my grade because I did all the work. And it made me so angry having to do that, because that's the rule. I mean, a team does the work, the team itself gets the identical grade, because then you have a problem. But then, unfortunately, when the student takes a subsequent class with me, and that's not how it works, you're graded individually, they realized that they were not particularly good at in that field. And it was disappointing for them, because they're thinking, well, I got an A in your other class, and why aren't I getting an A in this one? I said, because Bob did all the work in the other class. So I hate teams. I hate teams. But mostly because there has to be somebody who makes a decision, and it's not fun. It's not necessarily fun to do.
My intention is to stay flexible and approachable, so that if people disagree with past decisions, we can revisit them. But I think we can make decisions more quickly going forward. and we have a lot of time still. I think, you know, my intention is to make this happen without input from anyone else. You know, I think we've gotten to the point where there's a lot of people interested in helping, so that's awesome. But
yeah,
so everyone knows, like my goal is to, you know, make it as easy as possible to just show up and have a great time, and not worry about any of the details. So yeah, that I have taken it upon myself to you know, lead that effort, but it's part of this special community that, you know, everyone has something to contribute, and yeah, I'm trying to just like let that happen. So yeah, I really appreciate your help, because I know everyone respects what you have to say, and you've backed me up several times, which is really helpful. And yeah, I think you know, we've got a plan. I'll be sharing more info soon.
okay.
And yeah, I know you gotta jump, but really appreciate your time.
And one thing that I had in the back of my head, try to get people to commit as soon as possible to whatever it is they said that they're going to lead on, so that there's a point person for your groups, because interest tends to flag after the, you know, people start thinking about something else this far out. So make sure that you get people to commit.
Yeah, I think this is really useful. So I'm gonna schedule a hangout every week from here until May. I think that helps, you know, get people involved, and just reminds people to do what they said they were gonna do. But I'll be prodding as well, just on Telegram and over various chat platforms all over the internet.
All right. Well, you know, good. You're doing a great job, and you know, let me know if there's anything else I can do.
Well, yeah, definitely look forward to the papers committee pulling together some great work, and yeah, thanks for saying.
All right. All right. Talk to you later.
See ya.
Bye.
Oh, what's up, Gus? How's it going?
Hey, James, how you doing? Fine.
Our last participant who joined at 2 had just left, Cynthia, or maybe she's still on.
Okay.
She has to go. But
yeah, I just arrived, so I was trying to see if you're still there. You're gonna be here. I saw.
Yeah, I'm still gonna be live streaming for the next 43 minutes at least.
Right, cool.
I was planning to just start working on the spreadsheets Ken shared. We talked about the format, and you know, still being structured. However, I think we've got a solid plan for like how to allot time for different kinds of presentations, workshops, discussion groups, that kind of thing. I've been really excited about the marketplace too, which you mentioned on another call. I think that's going to be like one of the most unique experiences, and what will make this Rare Art Festival live up to the name. But you know, anything you'd like to share now, like I'm totally open to.
Well, I don't have any news yet. I was willing to jump in the call to see what's new, but yeah, I mean, I'm also very excited about the marketplace. Sounds awesome. I saw on one of the documents that Luis and Johnny Dollar are going to be involved in the art show or something. I would like to also to participate if possible.
Yeah,
I mean, we have a lot of stuff. So
I need to make it more clear that anyone is welcome to add their name next to the various committees, I mean, you can join all of them if you want. I'm planning to offer my time and effort to everyone who's doing anything. But I definitely I'm excited about people just like taking it and running with it. So yeah, feel free to contact them. I think Judy has been leading that effort so far, and she was on the call and had some great ideas. But we want to keep all the committees relatively open. Of course, you need to participate if you want to be part of it. But yeah, definitely join and reach out to those people. Johnny was on the call too. And yeah, any other ideas or?
What happened at the end with the name? Is everything all right? Everyone is everyone cool with the name at the end?
So I guess I'm gonna proceed with the name being RareAF because I like the name. I don't think there's any reason to change it other than the lack of emphasis on gaming. You know, I think that's a good reason. You know, other reasons I don't know if I see problems with like how it might be perceived. Yeah, the gaming sphere is very art oriented, especially in crypto. So I think Rare Art Festival does it justice. And it's also like RareAF. It's not really like specifically like the Rare Art Festival. So you can have like a rare gaming experience, you know, that involves tokens. Welcome back, Stan.
Hey, how you doing, James?
Good.
Did you see my urination back here?
No, I just saw it. Did you have it up there earlier? I didn't notice.
No, so like I was on a call earlier, and then I was on the chat with you guys. Hey Gustavo, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing? Good.
Good. I think we met like at an event at in New York at I think of that. What is that? New York.
At the National Arts Club.
Oh, it's called the. It was like on Madison Avenue or Madison Square Park. Do you remember that? Am I?
Was it the Creative Tech Week, or maybe?
No.
No, maybe it was the National Arts Gallery.
National Arts Gallery. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Sure.
Nice to see you again. Anyway, James. So I'll admit this to you guys. So you can see there's a toilet back there behind me. So earlier on the call, I was on the call with everybody else, and then I had to take a phone call, and it went on longer. Sorry to disrupt with this long, stupid story, but I was on the phone call, and I was like, oh, I got to pee. Left the door open. I did a sit down pee. So I just did a full fucking trow dropping right in front. So James, if you've recorded this, which I hope you haven't,
we're recording this now. So now
now I'm fucked. All right, never mind. We'll cancel.
But it didn't happen.
I totally forgot that the camera was just like facing that way. I like dropped trow and like pissed on my toilet right there in full view. But thankfully, I don't know. There must have been someone who might have caught it, but it's pretty small there. You know, I think would have had some shrinkage issue, but whatever. C'est la vie.
Oh man.
Yeah, we were just talking about the name of the event on May, and if I was just asking James if anything changed. Apparently not, just for good, right? Some more people jumping in and more activities happening.
Yeah,
that I see from the document.
My primary goals right now are to keep growing the community, focus on that Telegram channel, and direct people to the Google Doc. I'm also using Create to record what I'm doing for the event planning, and welcome others to participate there. And you know, also just welcoming people to voice their opinions. So I didn't hear any follow-up about concerns related to the name. So I didn't change anything. You know, we didn't agree to change anything, so I didn't. But yeah, I think so. I came up with another potential name that I didn't float out there because I like RareAF. But to include gaming, we could call it Rage, and it'd be like the rare art and gaming experience. And it's kind of like RareAF, more provocative, and it's more of a party in the, you know, after the actual event. We're gonna have like a bunch of musical performances and just a fun atmosphere. Not
well,
like
how does that work? What as far as like, yeah, it sounds good. Like Rage R, so that's like RAGE.
Yeah, like Rare Art and Gaming Expo.
How do you get to gaming with GE? I guess was the.
Yeah, I still like RareAF better. But
no, yeah, I mean, trying to like visualize it.
Throw it out there, but yeah, I want to include gaming regardless of the name, and I've already talked to some projects, and
yeah, I think that's a great idea for sure.
Like, I think there's a little bit of like, you know, confusion. Is like, well, it's a rare art festival and my project's a game, so I think we can overcome that without changing the name. But if somebody you know, really wants to change it, then the channel is open.
Well, yeah, I don't think that's necessary, right? I think what kind of games? I mean, there's so many games out there, right? Huge space, which is fine. And I'm thinking like gaming, you know, is like CryptoKitties is a fucking game. That's not a fucking. I don't know. Maybe it's not a game. I don't even fucking know what.
They call it a game. And there was games at the first Rare Art Festival.
Yeah, for sure.
And sure. One that I'm particularly interested in is Coin Artist's project.
The Neon District.
Well, yeah, that too. But yeah, another one is Axie Infinity. I've reached out to them.
What are they doing these days? Like, I thought they were like kitty hats, right?
No. So Axie is like these. It's not one species. So like a CryptoKitty is a unique assortment of characteristics with a single species, but they have like all these different like alien type characters. It's almost like Pokemon. You collect them and use them in battles, and I think they've got all sorts of ideas. And the team is really solid. They've got like, beautiful user experience and gameplay is pretty cool.
And this is Coin Artist involved?
No, I can't recall the name of her game right now, but I can look it up. But she's working on something. It's
she was here last year in a crypto party that we did last summer. She gave us some of her art. Look, that's a print of her puzzle. You see it?
Whoa. Yeah, if we could get her to make even a simple puzzle for this, like I'm excited about that. Having puzzles like games. But yeah, let me just find the name of her project because I want to mention it. It's oh yeah, so it's Neon District. You're right.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that was the name.
Yeah, I know one of the main illustrators of the game too.
Oh really?
It's called.
Yeah, I was confused about that. I thought that. Wait, what's the name of the CryptoKitties company?
That's Dapper Labs.
Oh, I got those mixed up.
Those guys are bad news.
Yeah, well, I was talking about that earlier in the call. Somebody mentioned Neon District, and I was like, oh yeah, the CryptoKitties team, but that's wrong. So the that would be awesome. Like, get Neon District involved would be like a huge win for everyone involved. Because like, she's OG Rare, and you know, those puzzles did so much for gaining adoption and just building up the hype. Yeah, I definitely want to get games involved. I'm not a gamer, so
Yeah,
I might not be the best person to lead that effort. And I'm not as focused on like crypto games, but I'm really interested in it. So I'm happy to reach out to anyone.
Yeah. Do you know if Dan Anderson from Bitcoin Crops is already involved?
He's in the Telegram, and yeah, I think he'll be there. He lives in New York, so yeah, I'd love to get Bitcoins involved. There's a group. I'll reach out to Engine, which is like a game development studio. They're working on a project called Multiverse, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I haven't really dug into the crypto game space as much, so I'm not as familiar with projects.
Okay.
So here's well, I don't know if this is derailed left field comment, but James, like, so that there's that NFT NYC event, right? That has come up. I just heard about it a couple of days ago.
Yeah, so we got a couple of the organizers in the channel. Devin from OpenSea's involved.
Okay.
And then I'm talking to Cameron from Cred, Cameron Bale, I think his name is.
Cred.
And I'll be presenting at NFT.NYC. So, and I know a bunch of people in our group will be there giving presentations. So I'll be representing RareAF, and they're interested in cross promotion. So I need to like bring that up specifically to the group, and so if anyone has ideas for ways to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like a more corporate. It's like a super corporate-y version of what we're trying to do here, right? More or less.
It's cool. I think it's not necessarily like corporate, but it is you know, put together by a group of companies.
Well, that would be corporate, yeah.
Like they're inviting all types of.
It's cool. It's just like I just heard. I feel like there was like a weird disconnect because like there's kind of like this desire to create an NFT event that emerged from, say, the decentralized art channel, and I feel like there was no awareness of that, or else I missed that, and so it sort of felt little oddly, I don't know, you know, top down maybe, or like some like I don't know how it's being organized, and I'm not trying to be negative in my comments of it because you know,
I think it's going to be a great event, and
no, it looks cool.
Venue
I don't want to be negative.
It's like,
I mean, I don't want to be
that kind of venue, and it's. I think we have more space, honestly. So, well, I don't know, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We're excited about collaborating with them, and yeah, like any cross promotion is
right. I'm just not sure what the collaborative elements are that have been. I mean, I'm sure they want to do it or whatever. I just don't see, like, I'm not seeing like the community outreach for it in a certain way, I guess, or like I'm just kind of like I was just a little taken aback by coming to this and like seeing a press release from December, let's just say, like now it's like 3 or 4 weeks later, and it takes me that long to see it. I just don't know, like I'm out of the loop, or like not being pushed in a certain way. Like I feel like I should have, you know, like, I mean, when did you find out about this, for example? Let's just say.
I was in like December maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's fine.
I think they're definitely more focused on other use cases besides art. Although they're plenty interested in art tokenization.
Right.
I think the practical way to collaborate is letting them, be involved in our community and promote their event to our, channel.
Right. No, I mean, I'm not trying to be negative.
Return the favor, and we can be there, with plans already set to promote RareAF. Yeah, it should be pretty straightforward. But yeah.
Cool. No, I mean, I think it's a great thing. I'm not trying to be negative about it. I found it odd that it just didn't filter to whatever. I feel like I'm fairly active on having my feelers out there for these kinds of things, and I just thought it was a little odd that it took this long to get to it, and I just didn't know if there was a broader kind of it just seemed weird to me, and I'm not weird, but just kind of a little surprised by it. And I was actually let's just say I was caught off guard in a good way, because I was like, oh sweet, this thing's happening, right? We've been talking about maybe planning another event, and we never really discussed this thing happening, which obviously would be something that we could benefit from, or piggyback off of in a certain way. So I just didn't know.
Yeah, well, for what it's worth, I think they've been doing a lot of work to make it a really cool event, and coming together. They've got speakers on the website, and everything's looking solid.
Yeah, it looks like a cool event for sure. No doubt about that. I just felt like we could have,
Well, the world's a big place. We do live in sort of an echo chamber, but there's little nooks and crannies, or just sometimes I don't hear about stuff until someone with access to another channel tells me about it.
Right on. Okay, sounds good, James. I appreciate that.
But yeah, I don't think I heard about it until recently.
Right.
But yeah, I'm really excited about it, and they've been really helpful. The other group that's been really helpful is the NFT Summit organizers. Ken just shared all those documents in the group, and we've got a template for planning this, thanks to them. And Matt put together this giant list of contacts and shared it with us. So that was really nice of him. Cool. Via Ken. But yeah, so I think cross promotion is always welcome. We've got time, which is good, although I'm trying to make moves as soon as possible and get things together. But we focused on the format today. Well, we had Judy lead a discussion about the art show, and got some input. You were there for most of that, I think.
Yeah.
And just for anyone's, that's probably going to be a core piece. We also talked about the call for papers, which is another big initiative. But I think what I'm focused on now is just figuring out a structure so that we can start filling in the gaps.
And what about the casino that Theo was talking about? Is there going to be a casino?
We gotta have some kind of game, interactive casino thing. Someone mentioned there was a group. If anybody remembers what it was called, that'd be great. But they were doing a game theory type thing at Ethereal, as in a separate room from the main building, but it was you played all these different games to win crypto, and there's some prisoners dilemmas and different number games. It was really cool. I think something like that could be interesting, but just having a poker table where everyone's betting crypto would be fun too. I don't know.
We just have the legality issue of that is
yeah, great point.
I mean, with Cynthia there, I mean, how can we like we can't do a casino?
I don't know. I mean, I think you can have a game of cards for money, but I don't know.
I don't think you can. Like,
really?
No, you legally cannot do that. It's like, okay, I mean, that's against the law, right? That's when you're like, oh, we're in crypto land.
No, I'm definitely listening to Cynthia. She's one of my most trusted confidants.
I think you need to rely on people like her to be like, you know what? I mean, as much as fun as I mean, I'm a fucking craps addict. Like, give me any day to throw dice. Like, I'll fucking throw dice. But, if you're an organizer of an event and there's like illegal gambling happening at it, like, you don't want that.
Well, my guess would be you could hire like certified dealers like to manage the card games or whatever. And
I mean, that doesn't exist. I mean,
I've been to events. And this is a private event where that happened. So, but I don't know about. It wasn't in New York, so maybe there's different laws. I'm definitely going to look into that. We're not going to do anything.
In New York.
Yeah. So I didn't do that in New York. So if that's against the rules, we're not going to do that. But
I mean, I feel like that's like an unnecessary space to go into. Like, I mean, it's just three of us here, and I would say that to people more broadly, but like, fuck that. Like, I mean, we're not like the speculative side of it. Fine. Like, yeah, everybody loves that, but we're trying to be more about art and all this stuff. So like, and that's kind of art. Okay, fine. I get it. It's art to be like fucking break rules and like do crazy things. And maybe if we could find a way around it, like that would be even more awesome, right? Like if you're like,
well, I mean, if there are tokens involved,
right? Yeah, we could have something where if it's not dollars or people are like, I actually honestly like I don't know enough about the gaming industry, but like I know that it's super highly regulated. You're definitely opening up yourself to problems.
Yeah, we could probably just adjust the format. So it's not gambling. It's like some game that you can play.
Yeah.
In crypto.
Right. I mean, it's like, but like if you're just like, oh, it's a poker table, and you're using crypto.
Yeah, I didn't realize that would be a problem.
It's totally illegal. You can't just have a fucking like poker game in New York City and be like, yeah, we're using crypto and it's like poker. Like people just be like, you can't do that. I mean, you can, but
yeah, I think it becomes an issue once you're like promoting it that way.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like, I mean, the other thing which would be cool, which is fine if it's like underground, right? Like if it's an underground, unsanctioned, related event, like that's another thing, which would be kind of cool. If it's like, oh yeah, like we have this side event and it's like people are coming there and doing this, but I don't know. I don't think like the idea of like having something on a Google Doc that says like we have a casino and then we have people doing that it's probably not a good idea. Would be my guess. Not to be.
Okay, well, we can adjust that easily. I'm sure Theo would understand.
Okay.
And whoever brought up that idea, it's a good idea. But we gotta follow the rules.
I mean, I hate to be the guy that's like, oh yeah, I know.
No, that's useful.
Draw my trow over here,
That's illegal. So you recently expose yourself to the world.
Guys, I gotta get going. I just wanted to.
Thanks for joining, Gus.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
And Sam, hope to see you again soon.
Cool, man. Yeah, good to see you too.
All right.
Peace.
Bye.
See ya.
All right, so it's just you and me now, huh?
Yep.
You want to shut it down?
I'm gonna keep streaming, but I'm probably gonna like finalize my notes and start working on adapting those spreadsheets to our event for the last like 15 minutes. So feel free to drop off if you want.
Well, yeah, we're here in the last 15 minutes. I'm sure there probably won't be like any last minute stragglers, but sorry to have missed the bulk of everything.
No, you're good. All participation is valuable.
And then, yeah, what else was I gonna say? Yeah, well, I missed your call, your curation call yesterday.
Yeah, it was fun.
How did that go?
It was good. I got some interesting questions. You know, a lot about the underlying infrastructure, but I've got some follow-up. Bunch of projects who are interested in discussing multidimensional reputation systems and how it can be applied to their projects. Yeah, and I think giving a demo is always you know, easier to understand. So that was helpful to just walk people through how to use it. And I'm using Create right now as we speak. I'm recording my time doing this live stream, and I'm planning to do this every week. So it's like consolidated into one task within the planning project, which is part of the RareAF 2 project. So I'll start bringing it up more often, or like at least sharing it via DMs to people who I've already talked to. So I'm not like shilling the group or anything.
Right.
My goal is to like have a record of what everyone's doing to make this event happen. So you can build a reputation in that context, and people will know. Everyone will know that. You know.
No, this is a great like opportunity for that, to showcase that, I would say, and just for people to see. You know, I got to look at I'll try and interact with the create document.
Yeah, and definitely want to put everything on the Google Doc as well. It's a complementary record keeping tool. One is much more permanent, and that's useful because it's accountable, and we're aiming to be as transparent as possible.
Right.
So yeah, I think over time people will take, but I'm not forcing anyone or like pushing for that, because my goal here is to like make this event.
Get the event focus on that.
Yeah, but
yeah, I mean, it's hard to get people adopting any kind of new habit is a challenge, I'd say, right?
Yeah, that's probably our biggest challenge, is like the added cost of time spent like going to the platform to intentionally record what you're doing.
Right.
But that can be abstracted away with integrations and
totally. So, well, yeah. As soon as you get like streamlined adoption of well,
it's really not that big of an issue once you build that habit, like you're saying. I found it to be helpful in like keeping me organized and accountable to myself and all the different projects.
Right. Well, that's part of the habit, right? Yeah. It's like, okay, well, like I'm spending I'm doing something right now of value, and I want to like at least respect that value, right? And the only way to do that is to like document it on some level, or to have it, have it captured in a certain way. Like right now, it's like, it's like I'm on a call for an hour and a half with somebody here, and it's just like, it's gone. It's like total, like, I mean, it wasn't a waste of time. It was a good call, but like, and hopefully something of value will come of it. But like that hour and a half, like that physical, or, that period of time, is, it's not, there's no quantifiable count for that. Right.
Yeah.
It's just a qualitative thing. Right. And I'm fine with that. You know, it's like, okay, this is relational. This is like, we're building something, we're doing something. But if like he and I, for example, are like, oh, every time we do that, you know, we're like, hey, we spent like 20 hours like bullshitting about this stuff, you know, and like what came out of that, right?
Yeah, but it wouldn't be validated, you know, or even
Totally.
validated. But yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I want to just, you know, say that you don't have to record your time. If you want to just upload or, you know, create content using the platform, that's another method of creating reputation or just creating value generally. And that's what I mostly do on Create.
No, I know you're out there, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's useful to record your time as well. But lots of people don't see their value as you know, tied to that. And the other thing is, you know, talk about the challenge of, you know, overcoming that cost, that additional cost. But really, the main issue, just to clarify, is the importance of choice and protecting, you know, self-sovereign users' privacy and control over their personal information.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a huge issue and
yeah,
very controversial. So we're trying to experiment and be transparent about you know, the implications of using Create.
Oh shit! All right, James. Well, let's. I'll let you get to tabulating your notes.
Sweet.
And yeah, I mean, we got to talk. I don't know if there was any discussion of that shill business or anything like that.
Yeah, I gave a brief description of what I think King of the Shill would mean. But I gave it as an example of something that others would need to like make happen. So that's kind of my thinking is I'll give a, you know, streamlined process, or like we can establish this process for getting involved. But at a certain point, it's up to the creators to make stuff happen. So like you and Seth can lead that effort and you know, figure out exactly how you want to do it.
Right.
But you know, I can't be, you know, installing everything or like, you know, making everything happen. But I want to provide that framework so that it's easy to get involved.
Right. No, I think you're doing a great job of that. I think, yeah. And one thing, what I do think there's like an interesting, I mean, I think it's a cool idea to like contain sponsorship, like have like some kind of contained sponsorship.
Yeah, it's an interesting
thing, right? Like, so
you're for sponsorship, and it could be like the primary way that we fundraise for this. But we were talking about that as well. You might not have been then, but we talked about how to contact sponsors and like what opportunities we will offer.
Right.
And that could be one of them, definitely.
So are like what? Yeah, I mean, I guess like it's like a broader question, but like what kind of sponsorship? What, in terms of, are you thinking about like having like people give talks, like level of sponsorship, just like names, like, you know, like banner sponsorship, like we're gonna promote our event in XYZ ways, and you can have a name on that, or like, you know, I mean, that the way I think about it, it's like you either have like either content sponsorship where you have douchebag talking about their platform, you have name sponsorship where like everything that goes out says like RareAF sponsored by douchebag, or you have like site specific.
Yeah. I mean, we did talk about that. I don't want to do any kind of like pay to play type thing.
Yeah.
So like you won't be charged to, you know, get an opportunity to speak or present your work. It's going to be a free event, of course, and we don't want to turn any project away. It's all inclusive in terms of like different networks or technologies. But yeah, so I was thinking like, okay, so here's my question I asked earlier. You can help me figure this out, because I'm thinking it's easier to like come up with like the bare bones budget and then like ask people to contribute what they can until we raise that amount. But then you might leave people out of like getting to sponsor the event. So like, it's always good to have more funds. So that's a reason to like not worry too much about the budget. Like we definitely figure it out as soon as possible, but like we don't need to worry about it in terms of how to get buy-in from sponsors. Like I don't necessarily want to see like one sponsor getting credit for paying for the food and then like another sponsor did this. I'd like it to be like a kind of like crowd-funded thing, but like from specific projects that are involved, and giving what they are comfortable donating to the cause, and like everything going into the event, of course. But the tiers of sponsorship are really important. So like I'm thinking the like first tier is like if you contribute in any way, like even showing up and giving a presentation, or like like all of the projects that are represented, I want them to be like sponsors. So that means like displaying their logo on the website, on whatever print materials, and maybe this bag idea. But the next level could be part of a design contest. So like if you are at a certain level of contribution, then your logo gets incorporated into this like RareAF NFT, or like it's just going to be like a, it'll have a bunch of identical tokens that we give out to the attendees, so they have something to take home and say, I was there. And that could be another level. But then the like highest level would be kind of like being the sponsor. So like I can imagine a few, or maybe just even like one main sponsor getting involved and being like the official sponsor of the whole thing, and that would give them a lot more control over what happens, and how they can promote themselves and whatever they're trying to do. So I think that's kind of what I'm thinking about, is the 3 tiers. You can have like every project on the website. It's really easy to do, but then like when you start incorporating logos into some design, you got to like get buy-in early and just like reach a threshold. Like once it's funded, we can talk about a wish list if others want to buy in. But like to avoid the problem of excluding sponsors who don't get involved sooner rather than later, we can just include anyone who contributes at a certain level of sponsorship. So I think that would be cool, but I'm still figuring it all out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge, right? Like, because I mean, there's a certain, I don't know, there's something nice about trying to go for, and well, one thing I like about the idea of the shill box is the idea of removing sponsors from the event. Like, I feel like that has the opportunity to just be like, okay, you know what? Like, we're doing something outside of, we're bringing people, there's audience that's coming here, and like maybe there's a way, there is could be a large dedicated space, right? Could be like, half of the lower floor at Bushwick Generator or something.
Yeah, I think that the main problem with the King of the Shill being like our source of funding is that it would have to occur before the event. So like you can't fundraise using, I mean, we could like, pay up front, and then like use the funds from the event, but there's no guarantee of how much will generate with the King
Well,
of the
you
Show.
have seed funders. That's and yeah, you know what? That's and that might be how you could do it. It would be like, okay, you could have deadlines where it manifests as a seed. Let's just say hypothetically, say May 1st, like anyone who's in control of like X percentage of the media time in this space becomes like headline sponsor or something or other. So it's like, okay, you go to consensus and you're like, okay, you know, you guys want to be the headline sponsor, and on May 1st, this is what it costs, right? And they buy that chill time then, and that's like it goes to a clean slate, right? It's like that bought them. They've got 40% of the time in the shill box at that point in time, plus the fact that they already have bought, you know, headline sponsorship of sorts. So it's like all of the promotional shit that goes out is going to be like consensus on it, right? So then they have to pay like theoretically a harbinger tax on top of that, if that's what it is. And I'm not necessarily sold on whatever model that is. I'm just this is just like, you know.
Yeah, that's cool. I hadn't thought about doing like a harbinger tax on like a banner ad for, and I know that Billy Rennekamp hacked on something like that, and Seth he's got something like that he built with Ori Shimoni. So I think we could use some stuff that's already been built to do like a banner ad, and leading up to the event, it's like whoever is paying the tax on that is the sponsor
Right.
for that time, for that given time. And if somebody else is willing to pay the price, you know, then they get, I mean, the way it would work, I guess, is like the sponsor would get the payment from a competitive sponsor that,
right,
you know,
then right,
it's over.
Totally.
But with the percentage,
if we
like,
sold it out that way,
we've got to figure out just like an established taxation rate for that, and we could use that to fundraise alongside, you know, general donations. That could be really cool, and it would be like a neat experiment to run, and we could, you know, even do some kind of presentation about learnings from that.
I mean, it seems like a cool idea. Like, it's absurd. I'd like to see how. I got to talk to Seth about, like, you know, he says they built something. Like, I want to know what the fuck they built. First of all, like, you know, how might that work? But like, because I mean, I think my idea about it is why I was like kind of joking about King of the Shill versus like Shill Box. The idea it would be that, you know, you're paying for the space. And I like the idea of, like, you know, just being really transparent about it. And you're like, okay, this is a paid for thing. And everybody knowing who comes to the event for free, right? Because when people aren't paying to go to this event, they can go and know that, like, somebody there is willing to spend money to tell you something, right? And it's like, you go and you can, they've, you know, been through perhaps some kind of tribulation to keep that spot, because somebody could have bought it from them and like taken it from them, but they really wanted to present information, right? Like, they, you know, it's not just some bullshit like, oh yeah, you know, let's give like 20 grand to this or that. Like, who cares, right? It's like they want to be there and present it. And if they don't want to be there and present it, that's fine. Then maybe they give some like media presentation that's like just on the wall behind them, where the behind the shill box. But on the alternative side, like as an art, to incorporate some kind of, you know, other consciousness, let's say, you have a live wall of a shill wall if you will, or a troll box, a live troll box, to bring that back, where people are fucking troll boxing behind that. So you have to engage in the troll box. Like, you know, you get like Codex up there, and then you get Theo on the fucking internet being like, hey, this or that, you know, how are you going to respond to that or not respond, or this or that? I mean, that's a challenge, right? But you have an audience, you have a captive audience, you have the opportunity to respond to criticism or troll comments or non-troll comments. Maybe we hire a troll army just to put like pseudo troll comments up there, or like questions, right? So that like there's some kind of engagement, maybe not like as adversarial as a troll, but like something that might be a cool space, right? It might be fun to engage in that, because when I go to like one of these crypto conferences and I see like all these fucking booths, like I don't want to fucking talk to anyone at any of those booths. Like I don't want to engage in that shit. I don't know. That's just me. Like I want to.
I see that, but I think it's good. I don't want to do that simply because it's like pay to play kind of thing. They had a few tables at the non-fungible summit.
Yeah.
And I talked to pretty much every table because it was a select group of like really high quality projects.
Right.
So we could do something like that if it makes sense. But
high quality pay to play.
So like.
Yeah, maybe it just generates. Maybe we don't need to do that.
I think we should have maybe 2 initiatives. Is like first, King of the Shill, which is online, leading up to the event. Harburger tax on the ad space, which is prominently displayed on the homepage of rare.af. And
yeah, I mean that's like meaningless, right? Like no one's gonna pay anything for that.
I mean, if it's you know worthless, then it'll go at market rate. You know, it's kind of up to you to self-assign or self-assess the value of it as an advertiser, right? So,
right.
You know, we could use it and self-assess, you know, the value of it starting off, and kind of like pay, you know, nothing because it's like redundant. You can be like paying, like sponsoring ourselves, but you know, the first buyer would you know have that set price, and they could you know redo the price and pay a tax on that as they see fit. But then the second initiative would be the shillbox idea. So that's like at the event, and I think it's open to not only the troll box, but like people who are in the audience can treat the shiller however they want, and it might take down the value of that pedestal.
Right. But that's the beauty of it, right? Like that's the point. Is like you're really putting it on spectacle of that's what it is. Like this is not like any kind of, you know, this isn't like somebody in a panel. We threw this fucking jackass in the panel because like his fucking family paid a bunch of money or whatever, right?
Yeah, well, I just want to have like as little of a panel thing. Like I don't really want to have too many panels. What we talked about, like 30-minute presentations from major platforms, like that everyone is you know, everyone can get behind, and then after those 30-minute presentations, having like 30-minute workshops led by those projects. So it's like all consolidated. Like each project has an hour, 30 minutes to talk about something new, 30 minutes to like bring the noobs up to speed, and alongside those workshops, we can have spontaneous discussion groups for those who are already familiar with those projects. I mean, if you still want to join the workshop, you definitely can, but I think that'd be a good way to do it. So then we can like, you know, simply, you know, allocate time for each project that's interested in presenting, and go from there. Because if we get like, as soon as we get, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 you know, major platforms involved, like that's a lot of time. You know, we'll have to.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
you know, I'd love to include everyone, and it would be awesome. I'm not expecting, anything, but that I think it's definitely a good way to do it because of the simplicity, and it also provides that opportunity for spontaneous discussions.
Well,
but we'll also have other times of the day, like it wouldn't just be like presentation workshop for the full day. We'll see what ideas come out, and
I think that sounds like a good like a good backbone or something, right? Like, so if you can get, you could do something like that and then have other kinds of events like sort of splinter off that. But I mean,
I can't wait to see
I hear something like that, and I really enjoy that. I think that's a great idea, and I like that, and I'm getting excited by that. And then another part of me is like, I want to like have something a little bit more intellectually curious, right? Like there's no like intellectualism and like learning about a platform and then like spending half an hour like figuring out how to use it, right?
Exactly. So that's why we'd have the spontaneous discussion groups around topics that are crowdsourced. We've already started gathering.
Right.
So then what's up, and you can do that. But then also wanted to mention the call for papers. We'll have a select few papers or authors presenting 10 minutes each, and that could be like an hour or an hour and a half or something like that, maybe. And that way we get the like intellectual, rigorous perspectives all around the same kind of time. So people who are upstairs creating stuff know when to come down for like the papers being presented.
And that would be cool. Like if you do that, if we schedule that in that way, like be good to like break those up, right? Because you don't want to just have like all of the, right? Like you have the 10 minute.
Yeah, that's another way to do it.
You don't want to have like 6 10-minute dense papers like right next to each other, because if you want to engage in that kind of stuff, like you can't engage it like, it's like, okay, I just heard somebody give like crazy idea. It's awesome. I haven't thought about X, Y, and Z. And then all of a sudden I'm being thrown into another.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think you could use that as like a way to break up the presentation.
It's like a break, right? It's like, okay, break, go fucking fry your brain over there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's probably better. I've been thinking about it as like a consolidated like section of the schedule, but that's probably the way to go.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, you throw it around, like think about how other people would consider it, but because it's like when you're dealing with like, complex issues or something that's like, people who are like condensing very broad, like intense thoughts into 10 minutes, like to give people a chance to breathe around those without like, impacting the next paper, let's say. So that becomes like a tract, like without making it a tract, right? Like, cause you're like, oh yeah, we don't want to do like, academic paper tract, but you're like, at the, like on the 10-minute mark every fucking hour, there's like,
yeah, that's
the shill, right? At the shill box, you have that happening. So there's like 10 minutes in the shill box every hour that's going to like fucking legit shit.
Yeah, I guess it's like you have to pay a tax on every increment of time that you're shilling.
Well, it would just be a way to be like, okay, there are going to be people at the shill box too, right? You draw people to the shill box. And obviously the idea wouldn't be like, we're not going to have like fucking like Tron buying ad space, which would be awesome if they did, because it would be, sweet. Like, okay, whatever Tron, like, if they're paying for it, that's great,
Yeah.
And then
I think it's
later
free market.
That and you could say, look, there's quality content, and that also sells the shill box in a certain way, right? Because you're like, okay, we've got, you know, quality papers coming in here, and this is how it works. And as long as you're transparent about it, and like people understand the dichotomy between the two, that you're like, okay, this is like part of our, you know, shill box is being taken over by our fucking educational element. Right? This is no longer a shill box of sorts, right?
Well, that'd be good. I'd like that.
You know what I mean? And you'd be like, yeah, this. So then, and then like, you know, like people like listen to an idea, and then they sit around, and then maybe it becomes more expensive to buy. You know, like say we get Glenn Wildy like do a 10-minute talk, which is whatever in terms of realistic thing. Then like it becomes expensive to like get the 10 minutes behind him, right? Because like we're gonna shut down Glenn after his 10-minute talk and force him into the other area, but you know, other people will be there. And it's like, okay, if you're into that, if you think that like Glenn's idea, people who are attracted to Glenn's shit are gonna be interested in your shit, and you can put together a decent presentation and you want to put it there, then fucking great, right?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of room to explore how this will actually work. And I'm looking forward to seeing your collaboration with Seth and others. It'd be really helpful if you could, you know, help move that forward.
Yeah, I'll move on that. That'll be my like action point for the.
Well, you're welcome to participate in, you know, however many committees or, you know, projects you want. And you know, with more transparency, the easier it is for everyone to know how to help. And yeah, I'm just throwing out suggestions, but I think it would be cool. The shill box and the King of the Shill ideas are both like definitely something I want to help with as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the few, like, I hate markets, so like I like to figure out ways to make markets work.
Well, that's a noble cause. Very, very.
So, yeah, there's my radical market sentiment. You know, it's like I hate these fuckers. Like, let's like figure something out. Cool. All right, James. Well, thanks. I'm sorry to like drown you on this, and I know.
I think I'm gonna do this every week so that people can join whenever they have time and just share thoughts, and we can, you know, keep building momentum.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I'll see you soon. See you one of these days. Peace, man.
Peace.
All right. Later.
Mm-hmm.